This conference will now be recorded.
All right, well, 1 minute. Justin's getting some water, I believe. Ready? Okay. Welcome everybody to the Wednesday, September 22nd meeting of the Monterey Select Board. In attendance, myself, the vice chair. One go present. Yes. Present. So we're all present here at Town Hall. And in the audience, names, representatives from National Grid, and Gary Shaw, currently, and Town Administrator Melissa No. All right, let's just jump right into it. 6 p.m. We have Jeremiah Pollard, who's going to discuss the active court cases, and that's going to proceed. Jeremiah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, so I just wanted to know what you wanted to do with the two cases that I've been handling, which is the Hume case, which is pretty much done, waiting for a decision by the judge, and the Steinberg Treem appeal that has been brought on for Elephant Rock Road.
Have you had any discussion with current counsel?
I have not had discussions with current counsel. He'd asked to meet and go over items. I called him back, left a message indicating that I'd be happy to talk about anything. And I just didn't have final word as to what I was going to do with the two cases that I had been handling. The trial for, I think I told you guys the last time, that the trial for Steinberg is in November.
So you reached out to current counsel, and current counsel didn't get back to you, or
no? Current counsel reached out to me, Brian. I forget his last name, and then I called him back, and we just haven't connected. There's some other stuff we're gonna have to go over anyways, but the question I had for when I meet with him is whether the board wants me to continue in those cases or turn them over to successor counsel.
Well, before we query the board, what do you have a recommendation based on your knowledge of the two cases?
I'm happy to continue on with that's the board's pleasure. I've been working on both of them for years, so it's going to be a lot of catch up for successor counsel to come in on the eve of trial.
Okay.
I mean, I was at the depositions. I know what the discovery is. There were multiple depositions in the Steinberg case, so someone's going to have to actually read all those depots as opposed to I've already done them. I mean, I guess that's the benefit. It's really the board's choice, though. You get to choose what you want to do from here.
All right.
Hi, Jeremiah. It's Justin. What rate would you
Yes,
work
sir.
for the town at the same rate that you were working, or?
It would be the hourly rate I proposed. When you guys had me do two rates, I did one as the retainer and one as the hourly rate, so it'd be 180 hour.
Thank you.
What's the cost estimate to completing the one case?
We are scheduled for a 3-day trial. Land court's full days. I think a day of prep and 4 days. They won't be 8-hour days, but I expect them to be 6-7 hour pieces unless the land court they're trying to get the Great Barrington School to do the trial so that we don't have to go to Boston. Obviously, if I have to go to Boston, it would be it would be some traveling. But Judge Foster has asked the clerk to accommodate the land court for Southern Berkshire District Court. They have 2 courtrooms. I don't see why they shouldn't be able to do that. But I don't have a decision. I haven't heard what the court's going to do with that. But they've done it in Pittsfield, and they've let the land court sit in Berkshire County before on cases.
So that's for the case with the trial, and
Yep.
in the case the Hume case that is just out for decision right now.
Yeah, the Hume case is out. It's done. We've done the final arguments and before the judge under consideration for decision. The chances of an appeal in that case, should the town be successful, are pretty likely. And should Hume prevail, then it's going to come back in front of the board to determine whether there's going to be an appeal. And that's, again, up to the board what you want to do with that.
I feel very uncomfortable making a decision without the current council having some, give and take between prior council and saying, well, look, this looks like this. I mean, that's why we have councils, to get a second set of eyes on the issues. And he should get a handle on what's going on in the 2 cases before we make a decision of you're going to continue or they're going to continue. They may have a total different opinion.
Do we have nobody?
Brian had said he was going to come on tonight.
I don't see him. I don't see him on there. So, listen, I think I have to agree with John that council that this needs to be discussion. I think between board and current council. I mean, if they, I have no idea if they want it, they don't want it. The sense of that in the conversation with.
Well, I think they want it. I mean, I think their expectation was when I got an email from Brian, it said that he wanted to meet to turn over all the cases, including the pending litigation. But the reason why I didn't know what the board wanted to do is because we hadn't talked about that the last time or hadn't decided when we had our last meeting.
Well, it's good to know what the litigation rate would be to continue on. Council and make a decision now.
Okay, so you would be willing to if the board decides to have you continue with those 2 cases, you would be willing to continue. Right?
Sure.
At the rate of 180 an hour.
Yes.
Obviously, it requires, whatever the additional things are that are normal, whatever is required. Okay, so I guess we can.
I've got some. This is Tom Sawyer. I'm the chair of the planning board, so the Hume case is of concern to me.
Thank you. And I can't see it from here.
I just would ask that as you discuss anything related to the Hume case, that I be included in those discussions.
Sure. Actually, then what do you have an opinion on? Do you have an opinion?
Well, I don't know that here's the place to necessarily get Jeremiah's opinion on whether it would be prudent to have another council pick up to do an appeal for a case that has the history of being at a lot of the hearings and being present for a lot of the discussion related to the case. So I'm sure he could transfer notes and adequately give them information, but the flavor of the case, I would be concerned that another attorney might approach it differently, So I want to make sure that we considered that carefully.
So is your opinion that that we should continue with that case with current counsel, or I mean, that's what I'm asking.
That would be my opinion.
Okay. And that's for the Hume case.
Correct.
And that's in case of appeal, because essentially it's done.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to clarify that, and yes, absolutely, we should be having a discussion with you in the room, because it is pertinent to this activity. I believe the next step would be for this board, or representative of this board, to get in touch with or to get a letter from current council and see what they want to do, or what their recommendations are.
I have a question.
Yes.
Jeremiah, do you,
Yes, sir.
in the Steinberg case, do you represent the board, the select board, or the Board of Adjustment? Don't you represent the Board of Adjustment?
I represent the Board of Appeals.
Yeah. So shouldn't the Board of Appeals be deciding whether you continue with the case or not?
The Board of Appeals doesn't hire counsel, though. That's the difficulty here. You know, the town hires counsel and their solicitors and town councils through the select board.
I know they pay for it, but
Yeah.
but shouldn't the zoning board be asked whether they want you to be replaced as counsel?
Well, that's a different question.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm asking it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the board just asked the planning board what their thoughts were, and I would hope they would be interested in what the ZBA has to say.
I think it's wrong to change the ZBA. I know the select board approves the hire and payment, but he's the attorney for the zoning board, and it seems to me that the zoning board should have a right to weigh in.
Susan Cooper's missing.
Uh,
John that's right, John can't because he's a voter.
oh,
So
It's Susan Cooper.
right, Susan is the actor.
so Susan,
so-
yeah, Susan, I understand that you are the
The
active.
only thing I can say at this juncture would be we're well into round one. I would not wish to predict whether, should we win, Steinberg will appeal. I've never thought she had a good case, but just because I don't think that doesn't mean the court will agree with me. I certainly, even though I'm acting chair for that case, I would not feel like, I would feel that the board would have to meet to have that discussion as a group before I forwarded our opinion as to whether we would want the next, as I understand it, Jeremiah, that part, we're waiting for the judge also, or is there still are you still in the phase of have not yet gone before the judge again?
No, we've gone in front of the judge, and we start the trial we start the 16th.
Of October.
November 16th.
November 16th.
Yes.
So as to whether or not we would want Jeremiah to continue, I would have to speak to the zoning, to the rest of the board. I would obviously be concerned that switching attorneys with this, that's a reasonable amount of lead time, but it's not a huge amount of lead time continuing, considering what's gone on in the case thus far. And I honestly don't know with this sort of case whether that's I would hate to see that court date be put off because we changed attorneys.
When is your next meeting, Susan?
I believe we have a meeting next week
29th.
on a different case, of course, but we could add this to the docket since it would be an administrative thing and not something that needed to be announced to neighbors.
The 29th is, I'm sorry, the 29th
Next
is.
Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Meeting.
Okay, so we would know about it prior to our next meeting then. Well, Jeremiah, 1 week is 1 week to make a difference, in your opinion?
It's really gonna make a difference for someone coming into the case. I've had this case for years, so it's really the person. If someone walks into this, they're gonna. November 16th it's a bit off, but it's not long in terms of trial readiness. It's, you know, for all intents and purposes, they're gonna have a month.
To continue the trial, and that'd be granted, I'm sure, with new counsel.
John,
It's not a deadline. What's that?
You have an opinion?
I do.
Say it.
I'm sure if new counsel asked for an extension of the trial date to get up to speed, it would be granted.
Possibly true, but given the backlog we've already seen in the court system, John, do you actually think it's better for the town to extend that further or to just seek resolution sooner? I mean, there's a lot of backlog in the court system, and maybe it's not so bad in the land court. I don't know. Jeremiah?
The land court has, of all the courts, the land court has really continued through this because they were the one trial court that did trials through Zoom because there's no jury. So their backlog is not as bad. I can't say what Judge Foster would do. It's entirely up to the judge whether he, we're gonna, you know, he would put continue it. He might, but it's been a lot. The pretrial conference process in this has been long, and we had to be, as Susan knows, we had to be very detailed in our last pretrial because they wanted to get it down to boil the case down to its bare essence for issue. So if the one complication that I might foresee for a continuance is that they go ahead and go through DCAM and get the Southern Berkshire District Court reserved for that week. I think a judge, it'd be harder, but not, it's not. It's really just up to the judge. So it's guessing what they're going to do for a continuance. But right now, we haven't heard yet. If there's going to be a request for a continuance, that should happen sooner than later.
Well, listen, I'll say my personal opinion, but it's up to the board. I think that we have counsel that's been working on two important cases, and they are not at the 50-yard line. They're near the goalpost. I can't imagine that that any attorney, but an attorney would want to play that amount of catch up prior to something that is so important to this town. We do have current we do have Jeremiah is willing to continue with the case, is willing to do it at a rate that's lower than the current council, but it's not really the dollars and cents. It's about actually getting it done and getting the best result possible. I do. It seems getting. I understand, Susan. You want to have a meeting with your folks, but I'm getting the sense that that everybody here wants to prevail. So I think the best possible outcome would be to have the current the past council continue with the case. And now, as far as the Hume case is concerned, I mean, there's a little bit more leeway after the decision. Certainly, we can talk to current counsel about handling an appeal. But this court case, if it's really in the middle of November, I don't know if any attorney would be thrilled to actually try to play catch up.
I'm inclined to agree with you, Steve, but I'm not willing to speak for the board as a whole. I don't think that's appropriate. I feel like the other members might not agree. I literally cannot speak for them.
And how do you justify spending the few $1,000s it's going to take for some other lawyer to re-go over all the work that Jeremiah has done?
That is part of my consideration, but I also think if someone has gone through all the work to be prepared and is prepared for an upcoming court date that is not that far in the future, it makes a lot more sense to have that person continue rather than switch horses midstream, as it were. So that would be my argument for why that's the best course of action in this case. And should it be appealed, then we can make a decision about, because that takes a long time, to go ahead and switch attorneys so that it's with the current attorney. But I agree with you, Don. I think it makes more sense to continue with the attorney who's already prepared. But again, that is my opinion. That's not the opinion of the board as a whole. And I'm not willing to, as acting chair, make that decision for the board as a whole. I don't think that's my role.
Okay.
I don't believe I'm so empowered.
Right. Well, we're not asking you to do that. We're just asking for your opinion, just like to receive.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that Justin contact town council, and we need some guidance from town council, the new town council, what they want to do with these cases, and then report back to the select board, and then we can vote on based on that opinion. I mean, that's why we have council. We need to get some guidance from them, what they want to do.
I'll add that, you know, it was really good to hear from Jeremiah, Tom, and Susan. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I do think we should also hear, like Susan said, from the ZBA, and then contact Brian. And then we can take all that information, inform a decision, and John, you do it, I do want to do it.
And I have a planning board meeting tomorrow. I'll make sure that my opinion matches the rest of the board, but I'm pretty confident that it will.
All right, good. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. I'll
Understood.
We're gonna contact town council. He's gonna render a written opinion, and, for the benefit of the board, and then at the same time we will have hopefully Susan will bring it up to both boards and see what their opinion is as well, and we will make a decision on the next select board meeting.
So I vote yes.
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 Thank you, Jeremiah.
You're welcome.
The next item on the agenda is a joint poll hearing on Chestnut Hill. This was continued from last week. Let's do the hearing first, and then let's see where we're at.
All right, I'm Steve here with National Grid. I have a graphic for you all to glance over. So I had a customer contact me about some poles that are on their property. I believe the customer's name is Cosmo. That property is the one that abuts Chestnut Hill and Cronk Road. Cronk Road down there at the bottom of that picture there.
Okay, so this is top of the Chestnut Hill.
This is the part of Chestnut Hill that is maintained during the winter. So after some surveying and research found out those poles are on that customer's property, and that we actually do not have the rights for those poles that are on that customer's property. So we are requesting to install poles within the town right of way so that we can get at least one pole off that person's property and continue to provide power for everybody else that's fed off of that line.
Are the old poles the ones on? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm turning it upside down. Are the old poles the dots on the left-hand side of Chestnut Hill?
Correct. Yeah, those little brown dots there. One says 27-50. The
Right.
one says 28. Yeah, so those are the existing poles in their approximate locations. And the poles that you see kind of in that pinkish color, those are going to be the new poles in their approximate locations.
Okay, now and so the land on that side is it within the right of way of within the town easement, or is this a town owned property?
Yeah, so it town owned road. So you know you
right,
guys
town road, but the property that public road that abuts. Yep, I understand that, but I'm just saying that who owns this property here?
I am not sure who owns that property, but we gave out a butter cards, and if they were, or maybe they're on Zoom, but because that's just south of Camp Hume.
Right, yeah, no, that's why I'm asking. And you did send a message, you did notify Hume.
Yep.
So is this unrelated to the customer who tried to get service 6 years ago, and is now, this is unrelated?
Unrelated, but we're hoping to speak about that.
We're hoping to expand the conversation as good. But so for the purposes of this, so listen, Chestnut Hill, not only, I mean, well, it's a terrible road, but the poles do, I understand, bring, not only do bring power to Hume in that area, but I also believe it brings power to the cell tower as well. I think the utilities that run up that pole.
Yes.
So these are very important poles. I have no problem with having these poles replaced on that side.
So you're replacing 2 poles with 4 poles.
Right. So the wire that we're gonna hang, it's much heavier than the stuff that is there now, so we can't hang that with
The 2 poles.
right.
See, they're closer together.
What's the span between? Is it 100 yards?
50 yards, 150 feet. That's our standard span.
Okay. All right, no problem. I'm happy to approve it.
Okay, so I'd like to make a, Justin, do you have anything?
No.
Anybody from the public?
Butters?
Any butters out there on Chestnut Hill? There aren't any because, there's only one person that really lives over there. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the pole relocation and the installation of the 4 new poles as the petition from National Grid.
Second,
All in favor?
yes.
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 Yes. Okay, so now I make a motion to the board, and it's up to the board, is that well, we have National Grid here, they're prepared to bring our attention to an item that is not specifically noted on the agenda, but is related when it comes to form of utilities. Would the board have any problem having that discussion right now?
That's the documents that I got those
Yeah, I thought
documents.
it was all part of the same one.
Yeah,
Correct
it's
to
all
me.
current.
So you don't have a problem with it, Justin? John, do you have a problem with it?
I don't have a problem.
All right, I don't have a problem with it either, so we're going to continue, we're going to expand this conversation to include these, okay, so we want you to set up the situation for us and the public.
So I'm Joanne DeRose, I'm with National Grid. We had submitted a letter for the board's review a couple of weeks ago, and regarding a resident who has requested that we provide them service at 198 Sandusfield Road. This customer approached National Grid 6 years ago asking for power, and at the time we gave them a couple of options. The cheapest option was to go down Farm Road, make a left on the Sandusfield, and hit the customer's property. We understood at the time from the board that option was not going to be viable because of a butter concern. So we looked at some other options. Steve, I don't think it wasn't you at the time, right, Steve? Yeah.
Right.
So we looked at some other options. One was to continue the pole line down Sandusfield Road, but that essentially doubled the estimate for the customer. And then we looked at also giving them the option to be fed from Eversource. That's a franchise discussion that has to happen between the 2 utilities. And at the time, that was not something that wanted to be pursued because, again, the costs were similar. The customer has maintained their own electric service. They've done, I believe, a generator. They are frustrated with that, and they want to become a National Grid customer. They want electricity, the benefit electricity that everybody else enjoys. That's due to them. So they approached us about reopening the case. the three options that we had at the time still exist. We can either come down Cronk Road and then onto Sandusfield, which is the cheapest, quickest option for the customer. We can continue down Sandusfield Road, again, probably doubling the cost. We have not done another design and ran those costs, but at the time it was double. And then we have elected to deny the franchise right to give Eversource this customer, and Eversource doesn't want the customer. So we're really looking at the two options. So before, Steve, before we run the whole gamut of doing the estimate and doing everything that's involved with that, we were hoping to have a conversation with the board regarding the abutters' concerns. And the abutter essentially felt as though, and I'm sure you all know who the customer is.
No.
Oh, it's Karen Allen.
Okay.
So she lives at the corner of Crown in Sandusfield. She did not want poles in front of her house. And like I said, that was the only reason it was turned down the last time. So before we go through the expense of redesigning the service, we wanted to see what the board's thoughts were on allowing the service to continue down Cronk Road.
So I just want to understand this.
Yep.
So this is where the customer is?
Yep.
Sorry. Very low tech here in Monterey.
I have old eyes. So.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let's do this. Let's do this way. So this is where the customer is.
Yep.
Okay. This is your last pole on Cronk Road. Is this your service?
Steve,
I just want to understand this.
So this is right. So this
Correct.
is
Last pole on Cronk Road. This blue line would be the proposed extension along Cronk Road.
Okay, and this is your last pole on Sandusfield.
Correct.
Okay.
So red is twice the cost of blue.
Very much.
Where's Karen?
So her
Right here.
she is right here.
She's right here.
Yeah.
Okay. And wait a minute. And what road is this?
That's not a
their
road.
driveway.
That's her driveway.
Yeah, they're pretty far off the road.
Wow. Is this really to scale?
No.
Okay.
No. So we serve Cronk Road overhead to her home, but she does not want the poles to extend past her home.
What's that?
That's the road.
Yep, Sandusfield
That's the
continues
continuation
into.
of
So there's no service on this?
There's no service.
Yep, there's Eversource poles that end
Right,
right at that
right
town
there.
line.
And there are no customers in this location.
So are there people that live along this part of Sandusfield Road?
I don't believe so, because otherwise we would have something
Right.
in the road.
What is the price difference?
So
between
back
the
6 years
cost?
ago, the Cronk Road option was about $28,000.
Oh,
The Sandusfield, yeah, which is enough, right? The Sandusfield Road option was almost 60. It's significant,
Actually, maybe things are.
and it will be much.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand that, but we were basically talking
Yeah.
about a $32,000
Yeah,
difference.
right. This is almost double the footage that we have to go.
And so the poles would all be on town property right
In the
away on
public
Cronk
way.
Road,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a butter concern.
But she had no notice of this being brought up at the hearing, so how can we possibly make a decision tonight on this?
Correct. I wanted to just have the
Without
conversation
notifying.
to apprise you of it.
Okay, well, I mean, it's good to
Yeah.
get the knowledge over here.
Yeah, I don't even know if the customer knows we were coming here today. You know, they've repeatedly begged us to give them power. So I thought it behooved our company to represent them in front of the board. So, and I sent the letter.
This isn't a formal request, she's
Right.
just informally
Okay.
asking.
Right. We are not asking for a poll petition at this point. We're just apprising you of the situation before Steve spends a lot of time and effort on designing something for the customer.
But I think that as far as you want to get as much information as possible, right?
Mhm.
So in this discussion, so at a minimum, we would need to know what the real cost, what the current costs would be. Instead of going through these numbers, right? So that's one aspect of it.
I think Martin and Jenna are asking to be heard, Steve.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Don, I'm getting there.
We can't see that.
But let me just finish my thought there, Don, and we'll open it up to the public. But I mean I think but at the very minimum, I mean, obviously we need to know what the current cost is. Right?
I think if those customers are on, they might know what those estimates are.
Okay,
That's
let's roll the dice, shall we? All right, you open it up to the public. So sorry.
I'm looking it up.
You're looking it up. Okay, good. So you're going to get us that information? So these are, you guys.
I'm sorry, you're talking to us? Is our mic
I'm
up?
sorry.
Okay.
I can't see your name because it's very far away.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. This is Martin and Jenna. We're at 198 Sandusfield, so we're here and listening. I think the screen just went dark. Can you still hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah. So we're looking up those costs right now.
Why not just go underground past Karen Allen's place and then put the poles in ground?
You've got well, first of all, you got a wetland.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I don't know.
yeah, so my first response to that is going to be cost. You know, I would say it's probably triple to go underground than it is overhead.
Just past the abutters. Really? How many?
No. I think what John's saying is let's say poles to here,
Right.
and then or pole,
She doesn't want poles on her property.
kind of a hybrid.
Go underground.
Okay.
Oh.
So yeah, so there
Yeah,
you can't trench.
option.
You won't be
Right.
able to trench anywhere around there because that's a wetland.
Right.
I just want to put out there that when original electrification came through, I'm sure that there were people who objected to the idea of it or to the poles, but we all got electricity anyway. And while I certainly respect the right of an individual homeowner to dislike the idea of a pole, I don't understand why we would, I mean, we can listen to their objections, but a single person's objection to a pole on town right of way in order to prevent somebody else from getting power that doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem ethical or reasonable from the standpoint of, I mean, if it were on my road, I wouldn't necessarily want to see the poles, although I have poles down my road. But the idea that, well, I don't like poles, so you can't have power or you have to pay a lot more. If she's that adamant that they have to use the other route, perhaps she would be willing to pay the difference.
Well, so Susan, so that's where I'm going with this. Quite frankly, I mean, that's why I would like to know the real numbers because in an effort to satisfy everybody, if that's possible, it may not be possible. That is certainly one aspect of it where the difference between running it down the other side, if it means that much to that other person, then they might be willing to fit the bill. I know personally, if I had an option and I had the wherewithal, and somebody said, well, for more money, you don't have to look at a poll, I might say that. So yeah, so that's personally where I'm going with this. I think I feel uncomfortable having this conversation without Ms. Allen also present. But I think I believe the first order of business is to get concrete numbers so that maybe there is a way that we can do it that way. And if not. But at least there'll be we could present options to the party that is not happy with it.
So do you think we should present this as an actual poll petition?
Listen,
Did we get the cost yet?
we
Well,
would
no,
need to
I'm
get
saying once we have the
need to-
costs and,
No, because you're talking about Plan A, Plan B. You're talking about I again personally,
Mhm.
once just speaking for myself, not speaking for the board. Once I had the numbers,
Mhm.
then somebody should have a discussion with Ms. Allen and say, listen, it's going to be one or the other. You know, uh, these are the options. But Susan is right that people do deserve to have electric service, and uh, obviously, argument can be made that you bought a house that was off the grid when you bought it, um, but
So I have the costs if you'd like them.
Great.
sure.
And this is just based on a calculation. So National Grid, and I defer to National Grid if the costs are different than this, but it's $42 a foot. So going west along Cronk Road, the price has increased considerably over the past 5 or 6 years. Is now 50,400, which is 1,200 feet to our driveway and 400 feet from our property line because we also have the property on Cronk Road itself. Coming south along Sandusfield Road is 2,300 feet to the driveway, which is 96,600. And I just wanted to add that we didn't purchase a house that was off grid. We purchased the land and we built the house over the past 7 or so years. So we got our certificate of occupancy in 2017.
Wow, I didn't. No, so you built it off grid.
We built it. We started to build it, and then we tried to get electricity so that we could build it more easily, and then we ran into trouble. So we decided to go off grid because we were running into serious trouble getting electricity.
And we needed to finish our project.
And yeah, so. and we were running, we were running into not having a house.
Yeah.
So
and that's where we are today. But after a good couple of winters of, I remember when the ice storm came through 2 or 3 years ago, power went out, right as we were sitting down for dinner on Christmas Eve, and it was off for a week. And that's happened a couple of times. We've had generator issues, so it's not reliable. It's not something we can continue to live on, and that's why we've come back to National Grid.
I think in some regions it is reliable enough, but in the Berkshires in the winter it is quite a challenge not to have some kind of.
The only person that is expressing a negative opinion is that one individual.
Yeah.
So.
I just want to say that these costs are outrageous. Is this cost regulated by the?
It is. They're approved by the Department of Public Utilities. So when we have a residential line extension, we do a per foot cost for the customer based on known costs for other customers. If we were to do a commercial account customer, Steve would actually calculate it by the actual materials that we're using, which would be much more. So this is actually a break for the customer. I know hard to believe with those numbers, but this is significant footage.
So the difference is $46,200, essentially. I mean,
I know I paid
Yeah,
for my pool.
right.
So.
Yeah, no. Listen, we're putting up having to change certain poles for broadband, and some of them were not our responsibility. They were, just the pole itself was $6,000 to $8,000.
Yeah, so we also pay a capital tax on every pole that we add to the system because it's seen as a capital gain, and that gets passed along to the customer because we don't pass it along to the other ratepayers because it's not something they should absorb. It's something the customer who's causing the construction should be absorbing. So that capital tax is, it's like 18%. It's significant. So a lot of things in that $40.
So I am acquainted with Ms. Allen. I would be willing to have an informal discussion with her if the board agrees. We can do it in open session. But we want to make everybody happy if possible. That may not be possible.
Yeah.
So in an effort to solve this, see if we can solve the dilemma. the other board's permission to contact Ms. Allen, have a discussion with her, and under the guidelines that we're having a discussion today. I'm not gonna make any decisions. I'm just gonna feel out her opinion instead of having letters going back and forth, and then her attorney shows up, and and this goes on forever. I mean, these folks do have the right to know what they're gonna have to deal with before. So let's say actually that's how fast would this be if the resolution was done? Are you gonna get up there? Are you gonna get them electricity before winter?
Well, I guess it depends on how fast that resolution is done, because one thing that we're gonna have to petition the town again for those new poles, right, and that takes time to be able to sit back in front of you. But, I'd say after that, we should be able to rock and roll and get those poles in, if whichever way we go.
All right.
I'll make a motion for Steve to reach out to the abutter and see where they are.
Please speak up.
I'll make a motion for Steve to reach out to the abutter and see where she is at on this issue.
Second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Sure. For me. Sure. All right. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna. We'll try it this way, and then if not, we'll try it the other way. Before you leave, though, are these numbers that I'm quoting, or you want to get me perfectly accurate numbers? Because I wouldn't want to misrepresent the numbers. If she didn't carry the one or something like this, I don't want to get.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Can you do that? You can provide it to the town administrator. Yeah. Those two numbers, Plan A, Plan B.
Yeah, I'll have to Jim.
8 as soon as possible, and get me on the case. All right.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time.
Thank you. We'll have to probably get another sketch. Okay, the BRPC Lake Garfield 604B project presentation and closeout. Hi, John.
Dennis Lynch, is that us?
No, it should be somebody from BRPC on there.
Is somebody
Hi,
from
it's me. Yep. Hello. Hi. This is Courtney Morehouse. I'm with Berkshire Regional Planning, and I just wanted to present an update on the Lake Garfield Hoopi Road project and for the select board as well as the public. So this is a project that was a follow-up from a 2016 study done by Dr. Ken Wagner on phosphorus loading in Lake Garfield. And from that study, the largest source of phosphorus that him and his team found, was that it was coming from sedimentation connected to nutrients going in from stormwater runoff. And he identified the sort of northeastern side of Lake Garfield as the main place where that runoff was coming in. So as a follow-up to that, the town got a grant from Clean Water Act money through Massachusetts DEP and came up with solutions, identified an actual site where they could put in some best management practices or structures to mitigate the stormwater pollution runoff. That project narrowed the area down to 1,000-foot stretch of Hoopi Road, starting at a seasonal stream or an intermittent stream just past Hoopi Woods Circle, and then traveling up to Elephant Rock Road.
Peppermint Brook.
What's that?
I think it's Peppermint Brook.
Until now, I did not know the name, so thank you. The engineers that were hired by the town, Foresight Land Services, came up with what they're calling a treatment train, which is basically a series of different treatment structure and systems in the designs. The first one being a linear vegetated bioswale that's basically a ditch along the northeastern edge of Hoopi Road that'll catch runoff from the hills to the northeast area. That'll allow rainwater to infiltrate and be treated. Then there's also going to be deep sump catch basins, which are basically catch basins that are a little bit deeper and the pipe is set a little bit higher than average catch basin that will allow some of the sediments and solids and salts to settle out before it moves through the closed pipe system that's going to be installed along both sides of Hoopi Road. That'll all lead to a proprietary system that separates oil and other sort of runoff from the road called a hydrodynamic separator, or sometimes it's called a storm scepter. But it basically separates pollutants and oils out from the rest of the storm water, and that'll discharge into a rain garden, which will do a final treatment before it makes its way into Peppermint Brook. So by the time it even gets to Peppermint Brook, it's been treated in at least 4 different ways, hopefully completely removing not only phosphorus, but any other pollutants, salts, sediments, etc. In the stormwater coming off there. So the end result will be that there should be very little to no. I think the estimates were 80% reduction in phosphorus and other pollutants going into Lake Garfield. Not only that, but it has some benefits for town public works. That road has seen increased maintenance due to climate change and freeze-thaw cycles. So that building a stormwater system and treatment train in there will allow for the decreased need for winter salting and sanding, and also reduce the amount of erosion and therefore reduce the public works maintenance needed on that road. As a follow-up to that, the town applied for 319 what we call 319, but it's basically Clean Water Act funds, again through the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. And as we're waiting to hear back, Berkshire Regional Planning has been putting together a watershed-based plan for Lake Garfield that basically proposes this idea as well as a number of other ideas to reduce the phosphorus in the lake. And ultimately what we hope will do is reduce the amount of algal blooms by reducing the amount of nutrients in Lake Garfield, which will leave it open for more of the residents' use, and also reduce some of the invasive species, as invasive species obviously use phosphorus as a nutrient to grow. So sometimes when there's higher nutrient loading in a lake, you can have greater invasive species. So just wanted to sort of make that announcement to the project and to the select board. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I am to understand that a general study was done, and it seemed to be the phosphorus was one of the biggest challenges, other than the Eurasian milfoil itself, with Lake Garfield. And I was under the understanding that there were 2 areas that were identified. One was the Hoopi Road, Tyringham Road, because it's a big, long paved road and it's steep. So you get a lot of runoff with oil and what have you. And then the other one was actually Chestnut Hill Road, but I guess this is targeted to the area closer to the town beach, which is Hoopi Road, Tyringham Road. So this project's on. Everything's on time. Then there you go.
Yep, the project, the designs themselves have been wrapped up, so we're really just in the outreach phase. So there'll be, this presentation being one, but we're also looking to organize a public information session for anyone who's interested in learning more about the project as well as the watershed-based plan. And then we're really just waiting to hear back from Mass DEP about the 319 funds, and that'll kick off the implementation phase if awarded.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and your contact is Dennis Lynch?
Yeah, you can get to me through Dennis. You can also email me directly. It's cmorehouse@berkshireplanning.org.
Okay, terrific. Are there any questions from the board?
What if we don't get the 319 funds? What happens then with the project?
So if we don't get if you don't get the 319 funds, Berkshire Regional Planning has regional coordinator funds through the 319 program, actually, to help revisit any projects that towns are interested in putting forward and identifying what maybe stopped the project from getting funded, rectifying that, and applying again. 319 is actually opening up the cycle again in the fall. So there will be an opportunity without having to wait an entire year to reapply if unawarded.
What's the total cost of the project?
Sorry, what was that?
The total cost of the project. What funds are we looking for? What's the total?
The total cost of the project that you applied for 319?
Mm-hmm.
71,000, and there is a 40% cost share. So I believe DEP would be awarding around 60,000 or so of that.
And the town raised and appropriated the balance for this one, no? Or is that with the previous one?
Okay. Where do we get the funds? Terrific. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody,
you
any member of the public have a question?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, yes, sorry, yes. Sorry, I can't read your Tom.
Yeah. So Courtney, during the study, was it determined where the phosphorus was coming from? Was it from the salt that was being applied to the road, or was it farms in the area, or other? What was the source of the phosphorus?
Yeah, so they looked at a number of different sources. They looked at a number of different possible. Some of it is definitely from the natural nutrient cycling in a lake that every lake does, where the nutrients come from the bottom and sort of cycle through the lake. They also looked at septics, which can also be a big factor for phosphorus, but found that according to that study, phosphorus wasn't very high, if at all, coming from septics. So the most of it is coming from stormwater runoff. And what we have sort of posited is that stormwater runoff is in particular phosphorus that's latching on to sediment, just dirt particles that naturally have phosphorus and nutrients in them. That's coming with stormwater into the lake. So anything where it's uncontrolled stormwater, it's not being captured and allowed to infiltrate before reaching the lake, will add to the phosphorus loading in the lake. And I think that's sort of the main culprit for this in particular.
It's
So it just seems like a lot for naturally occurring phosphorus, but I mean, maybe the sediment is giving it a vehicle to get into the lake, but it just sounds like a lot of money to capture something that's occurring naturally.
So it's also, I understand that I understand it was the bulk of it was a runoff essentially from Tyringham Road coming down.
Yeah, it's not necessarily natural in that. I mean, it's natural in that it's dirt, but it's not natural that dirt be loading into the lake. It's that there are dirt roads that are running off and then getting into the lake. So in a natural system, you would have buffers and plants, etc., that would be stopping that sedimentation from getting into the lake itself, and therefore the phosphorus would be controlled in some way. And so in this case, that isn't happening, and so it's getting into the lake.
Gotcha. And then if you stop that, the natural turnover of what's in the lake will slowly dissipate as it.
Well, you'll still always have some natural turnover, but it typically won't lead to algal blooms in the way that we're seeing here. Yeah, it'll be sort of at a lower level. You'll always have phosphorus in lakes and rivers, etc. It's a natural element, but it's about the level of it. So the hope is that we can control as much of the excess phosphorus to have the natural stuff not have that much big of an impact.
And by the way, one of the let me just say this. One of the takeaways from that phosphorus study was because I was party to it, is that we were sure that there were going to be some septic related issues around Lake Garfield, and we were surprised that that there basically wasn't. So the current Title V the fact that the houses that are being built or rebuilt with new septic systems are really doing the trick, and it seems to be runoff more than anything else. So I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Susan.
I just So do I understand correctly that the second CWA grant that you spoke of for implementation would actually cover the entire cost of implementing? And who would be doing the work if we got the grant?
Yeah, it's a good question. So under procurement law, I believe the town would have to go out to bid and follow the proper procurement for that. So it would be an outside contractor. There's always opportunities if there's materials, et cetera, that the town has written in there to donate in kind. And I haven't fully teased it out, but there's opportunities to have in kind support in there. But yeah, I would have to go out to bid and go through the proper procurement. Yeah.
Thanks. But
Yeah.
you expect that the grant would cover implementation?
Yeah, the grant is written to cover all of the implementation to actually put shovels in the ground.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anybody else from the public? All right. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh my God, right on time. Town accountant, 7 p.m. Town accountant.
Eric Kincher should be on there.
Eric, are you on?
Yeah, yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Beautiful.
All right. So, welcome to the hot seat. So, I guess we had you here because we basically wanted to discuss the contract and also got to kind of get our heads around the issue that apparently that happened. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Yep. So I probably should explain that issue first, and then discuss the contract after, if that works.
That works. I think that's a good plan.
Okay. All right. So what had happened was the town voted to use free cash to reduce the tax rate. So the intent of the town was to just use the free cash as a revenue source, so the tax levy would be lower. But what had happened was, when the tax rate recap sheet was filled out, it was treated both as an appropriation, as a projected expense, and a projected revenue, which was incorrect. So basically, what happened was, since it was a projected expense and it wasn't spent, you have an extra $341,000 in free cash, because your intent was to use free cash as a revenue source, but not increase your budget by $341,000. But the way the recap was put together, it was shown as both an appropriation and a revenue source, which was incorrect. Now, the big thing is, like, whose fault is that? As experienced town accountant, we should have actually reviewed that tax rate recap before it went as a final, because we usually work with the town clerk. And in some of the towns, we actually fill it out ahead of time, and then we work with the town clerk. And so even though, like, the town clerk signs off on those appropriations, we should have reviewed and caught that that section beforehand. So that's basically what happened. So now your projected free cash for this year is actually $341,000 more than what it normally would have been. And that's because the free cash that we're going to use for last year's budget wasn't used for last year's budget. So now you're going to have it as part of your certified free cash this year.
So what policies and procedures can be put in place so this never, ever, ever happens again?
Okay, so I think what we should do is, when the budget is prepared, this should not only be a projected expenses, but it should also have, like, projected revenues that equal out to the projected expenses. So, for instance, if your budget's $3.6 million, there should be a summary of the revenue that says this much is coming from the tax levy, this much is coming from state aid, this much is coming from local receipts, and this much is coming from free cash. So when the budget is presented, if the revenue sources are clear, that would be helpful. And that way, when the tax recap is, before it gets submitted, we can check the recap to see if those targets, projected revenue targets, agree to what's on the tax rate recap. So that would be, that would probably be the best approach, and to work it out. Because I was looking at some of your budget documents, and that's basically what I would say. And normally, the reason it's usually caught in a town before this, because most towns aren't like Monterey. Most towns actually tax up to the levy limit. So when they tax up to the levy limit and they're supposed to use free cash, if you don't use free cash, they're going to say, my budget doesn't balance. We're over Prop 2.5. What happened? Then you go back and say, oh, that's because we were supposed to use free cash. But because Monterey is so far underneath the tax levy limit, it really didn't stick out. So, in a nutshell, I would say, as far as the policies and procedures go, I think it would be helpful when you put together the FY23 budget, not only do the budgeted expenses, but also do the budgeted revenues, and we can help you out with that as well. So the town will know this is how much we're voting for expenses, but these are the revenues that support those expenses.
But John, I'll give you one second. So how many? So it seems to me that there are a number of eyes that could be looking at these sheets.
Yes, it's basically the assessors have the primary responsibility, and then there's different sections. There's sections that the accountant fills out. There's the sections that the town clerk fills out. But it's good to have somebody have an understanding of how this whole thing gets put together, and that's important. That's important. And I mean, we'll take responsibility for coordinating that whole process. But what would help us as a policy that it doesn't happen again, if we knew what the town was projecting up for revenues to support the budget. So basically, when you vote your budget, somehow say, all right, this is what we want to support it with taxes. This is how much we want to use for free cash. This is how much is a state aid. So the revenues will equal the expenses. So I think that would help prevent this from happening again. And then when the selectmen do the tax rate reclassification hearing, like next year, they could compare it to say, like, all right, we're about to vote the tax rate reclass. What's the projected tax levy? Then you'd look at it. Then you look at your budget from last year and say, hey, when we voted this at town meeting, we're only supposed to use, $3 million in taxes. Why are we using 3.1 million? Like, there'd be a check and balance there as well.
Right. Okay, John. So we have John Silbert has a question.
I'm just gonna, because people can't hear sometimes, I'm just gonna. So Eric, hi, how are you?
Hi, John. How are you doing?
I'm good. You remember we had a long bunch of discussions a couple of years ago
about revolving funds?
Yes.
Yeah. I know a lot about them now, thanks to you.
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to ask you just some quick questions so that I understand the process of doing the tax recap sheet, and then I just have a few comments. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So according to the instructions for completing the tax recap sheet, the order of filling the sheet is actually in reverse. It's 4, 3, 2, 1. Is that correct?
Yes.
And on page 4 of our tax recap sheet, an amount of $415,950 was entered for the 6/27/20 meeting.
Yes.
Do you have Eric, do you have this in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah. And the 74,480 was appropriations from free cash, and 341,470 was used to reduce the tax levy. So that accounted for the total of 415,950. So my understanding, and I think everyone's understanding at this point, is that the 341,470 should not have been entered here, only the 74,480.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay. And the clerk enters these amounts on page 4 first.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the amount on lines
3A through 3D on page 2 of the tax rate recap sheet autofill from other forms. In other words, those amounts, and I can quickly, hopefully, I can just,
Yeah, no,
right?
I see him, and that is
Okay, so,
that is correct also.
okay, thank you. So,
Can I interrupt?
no,
Yes, please. I need to see a copy of what, I mean, it'd be great if we could see copies of what you're
if
talking
you
about.
want to make copies of the tax recap sheet, go ahead.
I've been able to follow, but.
Okay, but I think we'll work this out. All right, so my understanding is that the amount entered on 3D1A of our tax recap sheet, which is free cash appropriated on or before June 30th of 2020, is autofilled from Schedule B1, Part 1, Line 5, FY21 recap appropriated on or before June 30th to reduce the tax rate. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct. Basically, that number has to be manually entered in. So if you look at section 3C, number 1, that's autofilled from Schedule B1, which is the free cash. But this one that you're referring to has to actually manually be typed into that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's not what Deb Wagner says. I have
Well,
an email from her that says
Well,
that
I've done probably like about 50 of them, so I know that doesn't fill in from any other schedule.
All right, so so you're saying that when you enter a number on Part 1, Line 5 of Schedule B1, it does not autofill on the tax recap sheet on page 2.
It does, but
it does. Okay, that's all I asked.
It autofills in section 3C, number 1. That's where it autofills.
Yeah, no, that's where it totals. I was asking about Part 1, Line 5 going to 3D. That autofills.
Part 1, line 5. Is this on Part 1, line?
FY21 recap appropriated on or before June 30th to reduce the tax rate on Schedule B1. When you enter that number there, it autofills on the tax recap sheet on page 2.
Yeah, let me take a look. Let me take a look at that because I have it online right now. Let's see. And if that's the case, they might have just put that in, but I'm going to check it right now.
Okay, is it all right if I move on, or you want me to wait?
No, absolutely, move on. Yeah, I'm going to take your word for it because there's a spot. They probably put a spot on it, and if that's the case, if it was filled out there. Let me just figure that one out.
I can read you what it says. Part 1, Line 5 says in the notes under date certified to recap page 2, Part 2D, etc. So it goes automatically according to B1.
Yeah, so let me see. B1 free cash. And let's see. Bum. Yes, I got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
that's
My next
correct.
question,
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
My next question is, the accountant fills out Schedule B1, Part 1, Line 5. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And my understanding is the amount of $341,470 should have been entered here by the accountant.
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay, I'm almost done.
Yep.
The amount entered on Schedule B1, Part 1, Line 5 was entered as 0. Is that correct?
B1, line 5. Yes.
Okay, so it was entered as 0. And this amount of 0 autofilled into 3D81A on the tax recap sheet.
Yes.
Was it manually entered in?
It's manually entered on Schedule B1. It's automatically moved to the tax recap sheet.
Yep.
All right, my final question is, well, not really. You know me. My final question is,
I've never heard.
the accountant certifies page 2 and 3 of the tax recap sheet. Is that correct?
No. There's no place for the certification of page 2, but the town accountant certifies page 3, which is
page 2 and 3 are the same thing. Page 2 and 3 have one certification at the bottom of page 3.
Where's page 2?
Oh, signature. Okay.
So I would like to point out a few things now, and I'll get to the who blamed who wrongly later. What I'd like to do is just get it straight first. So we've already established that the order of filling out the tax recap sheet is in reverse, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? The town clerk entered her amounts on page 4 on 11/4/21 at 2:15 p.m. And I'll read it from the tax recap sheet. Clerk, I hereby certify that the appropriations correctly reflect the votes taken by town, district council, etc. Terry Walker, town clerk, Monterey, 11/4/20, 2:15 p.m. And she has a comment. I have attached certified reports and comments. Those certified reports include the certified minutes of the town meeting, which show Article 16, which is the appropriation to reduce the tax levy. So now I'm going to move on to Cap 3. The accountant then entered an amount of 0 on Schedule B1, Part 1, Line 5 on 11/5 at 8:31 a.m. So we're talking about the next morning. And following that, that amount of 0 autofilled on page 2 of the tax recap sheet and was certified by the accountant at 11/5/20 at 8:34, 3 minutes later. So the town clerk did her job on 11/4. The accountant did her job on 11/5 afterwards. Okay, here it is from the tax recap sheet, bottom of page 2-3. Accounting officer. I hereby certify that the actual receipts as shown in column A are, to the best of my knowledge, correct and complete. And I further certify that I have examined the entries made on page 4 of the above indicated fiscal year tax rate recapitulation form by the town clerk, and hereby acknowledge that such entries correctly reflect the appropriations made at the sources from which such appropriations are to be met. Signed, Lisa Kelly, town accountant, 11/5/2020, 8:34 a.m. So the town clerk entered her amounts before the accountant. How is it possible that when Terry entered this figure on page 4, as Melissa reports, she canceled it out on page 2? How can that happen? How can something Terry did the day before cancel out something the accountant did the next day?
I'm not sure what you mean, but I can basically this is what would have happened if we filled in the form correctly to reduce the tax rate. We would have got an error message, I believe, that said because that page 4 doesn't agree, and then at that time we would have went to say, hey, listen, we should, Terry, this is like a unique circumstance. We have to take the free cash off of page 4. I think
Correct.
that's basically right.
That is correct.
Yep.
The accountant certified that she had examined the entries made on page 4 and acknowledged that they were correct.
Yes.
But they were not correct.
No, they were not. That was
Okay.
that was a mistake. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, although Terry made an error on page 4, it should have been found the next day.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. So wait, I'm sorry. The part about okay. So I would like to. I'm going to continue the discussion later in the meeting because Terry was wrongly accused of doing something, and the accountant was defended for not doing something. And I have the rest of that written down, and I'll carry it out later. But for my purposes with you, Eric, I appreciate your honesty. We now know who made the mistakes. Everything you said has already been corroborated by Deb Wagner, who's the head of Bureau of Accounts, and I have her email proving it. So I want to thank you very much. And for the moment, I'm done. We'll take up the rest later in the meeting.
I have a question. Why wasn't this discovered for almost a year? By your firm?
Well, the way it was discovered was Lisa was she was proving out the budget, the appropriations to the budgets that were booked, and that's where she found it. So, and
Why
then,
wasn't it found earlier, is my question.
oh, we didn't find it.
Well, isn't that your job to find mistakes like that?
So wait, so it seems
Yeah.
like
Well, you know what's good. Know what's good about this is that yeah, we made a mistake on that. So, I mean, if you can find an accountant that can do a better job, you should. Because just don't sign the contract tonight.
I don't
But
understand what that means.
But
You're right. Yeah, yeah.
why it wasn't discovered earlier, so we can get a policy in place that this doesn't happen again.
Right, and I told you what needed to be done is that it would be helpful if we had like the revenue forecast and so forth. But basically,
You did have
what we should do is we should keep we should have looked at the town meeting ourselves internally.
It needs to be reviewed by a number of people before.
the law says that the accountant reviews page 2. And it enters page 2 and then reviews page 4 by law. And she certifies that it's correct. So we already have something in place.
No, it's
You
correct
read the
and
law.
everything lined up, but it lined up incorrectly. I mean, that's
No,
not what
happened.
the thing. Yeah, that's exactly what
Eric,
happened.
I'm sorry. I have more questions for you that I would like to take up later
Okay,
because
anyway.
they do affect this year's budget season. So I would love to talk to you about that because I think, we should be talking to the accountants. The finance committee members should be talking to the accountant during the budget process. That would be very helpful.
I think there should be a dialogue. I think it should be dialogue with the board and the accountant, and yeah, the more eyes on these things, the better.
Board members.
I have another question for Eric. So how did the tax levy get reduced by 341? Or
It did not.
I know, but
It did not. It didn't get reduced.
But Melissa has an email saying that it did.
No, I do not have an email saying that it did.
All right, Melissa says all right, look, I didn't want to get into this now, but the fact of the matter is, even though the 341 was put in the wrong place, it reduced the levy.
It did not reduce the levy.
How did it not reduce the levy? Look at page 1 of the tax recap sheet. What is the levy? The levy is 3896 and change. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, line 1D. Now, what revenues went against the amount to be raised?
341.
Yes, is part of it.
Okay, so can I mention something to you? If you look at page 1, 5,524,162.45.
Yeah.
It says appropriations. That includes 314,000 in appropriations. That shouldn't be there. So if that was reduced by 314,000, by default that tax levy would have been lower by 341. So you are incorrect.
It was by 341.
No, it was not.
If you look on page 2, 3C1, free cash from page 4, 728,442. Do you see that number?
Yeah, hold on a second. 5,524.
You mean 728,422?
The 728,422.
Let me walk you through something.
Wait. Did it
right now.
reduce or not?
Please, because this gets to my point. Okay. All right. John, are you listening?
Yeah.
Okay. Look on page 4, and it says total appropriations at each meeting. There's a number that says 4,953,947. You agree with that?
Yes, that's an appropriation.
Okay. It is. Okay. Listen. Okay. Listen. That number includes the 415 of free cash. It includes 415,950.
Right. Okay.
Okay. You do. Okay. Yeah. Do you agree
That's
that number should have been reduced by 341,000?
It was. I agree with you that the tax levy was reduced.
No, it wasn't. That's what I'm explaining to you. It wasn't reduced because, so basically, if that number was $341,000 lower, the 4,953,000 would have been 341,000 lower. The total appropriations would have been 341,000 lower, and if they were lower, we wouldn't have needed to raise as much in taxes, and that would have affected the tax rate. That would have reduced it by default. So the answer is, we did make a mistake overseeing it because we understand it, but the tax levy was not reduced by that vote because it was treated
so
both as an appropriation and a revenue source. It should have been just treated as a revenue source only.
I understand, but we levied 3.89 million. Okay, that's what we levied. So you're saying that we should have levied 341 less?
Yes,
Less?
yes.
Okay.
If everything was recorded correctly, yes.
So that means that you don't know this yet, but we haven't spent $850,000 of last year's monies yet. So actually, we never got to the point where we spent money that we didn't have. You understand what I'm saying? In other words, we didn't spend the appropriation. In fact, we were well more than $340,000 below it.
Right. So there must have been some turnbacks in some other budgets as well.
Right.
So basically, the 341 was just like something that was budgeted that was never spent. That's how it was treated on the recap.
That I totally agree with you.
Yep.
Okay.
Very good. So, experience is.
I would like to mention one more thing about experience.
With plus time.
We've done this 6 times in the last 10 years. We did it in 2012, 14, 15, 16, and 17.
Did this
5
reduce the
years.
levy?
We used money, free cash, to reduce the tax levy. We never made a mistake. So it doesn't happen all the time, and we've never done it wrong before.
John.
That's it.
Yeah, I agree. I think your point is well taken. I believe that Eric does.
I totally appreciate what Eric has done today. I really do.
Up front
because the problem isn't that people make mistakes. The problem is when they're not acknowledged.
Well,
or when the wrong people are accused. That's the problem.
Or when you don't learn from it.
And of course you want to learn.
And
you can't learn from them until you acknowledge.
Believe me, this is an error that this gentleman is never going to make again.
Just like asking the finance committee to sign a document that can't be signed for the reserve fund. And we were very lucky. The state actually forgave us for 1 year.
So, so that being said, there should be policies and procedures put in place to make sure this doesn't happen. It also, I believe, is indicative of the fact that any accountant that we work with should understand Monterey's fiscal policies generally, because we operate a little bit differently than other towns do.
We have more money.
Well, so, but that conversation should always take place with the accountant.
Eric, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so
is Miss Kelly still servicing this account?
Yes, she's on vacation, but she's still servicing the account. She's like one of our best accountants. So she felt really bad about this herself too.
Unfortunately, Eric, we got an email stating that the accountant did not make a mistake. Only the town clerk made a mistake. So, and I actually emailed Kelly, and I'm sorry, Lisa, and asked to speak to her about it before this meeting, so that we didn't have to run this through at this meeting.
Okay.
So your accountant refused to meet with me because we have a policy that says that the finance committee can't meet with the accountant.
Well, that's next on the agenda.
Yeah, that's next on the agenda. All right. So, but right now on the agenda is your contract, Eric, for accounting services. We wanted to speak to you prior to that. And I make a motion that we accept this contract, and we move forward together.
Second.
The 2-year contract?
Yeah.
A disappointing information. Why is it 2 years? Do we get a discount?
I'll move it to 1. I'll move it to 1. Whatever you want.
Yeah, just a question. When we used to.
The only reason I did it for 2 years was I actually I don't like doing it as of June 30th because,
Yeah, it
I'm
actually,
sorry, there's three people talking at the same
oh,
time.
I'm sorry.
No, you can talk.
Oh, okay. My idea behind, like, I don't want a contract to end on June 30th because it's not fair to the town because the next 3 months you have to do the free cash and everything like that. So you really shouldn't have a contract that ends on June 30th. So I'm open to whatever, whatever you guys
So-
want to do.
okay, and the boards have typically tried to lock in the pricing.
And with inflation coming up, I might be better off with a 1-year contract.
No, wait.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
If you know about inflation in the future, I'd like to know more about that.
Well, you don't have to just look at the gas pump.
We've been waiting for inflation for quite a while.
You have somebody make a copy of this? You don't have a copy of this, John?
Well, he's agreeable to make it a 1-year contract, so I make a motion that the contract be made. Can I finish my motion before you start?
Well, actually, I made a motion first, but. All right,
What was your motion? Oh, your
My motion
motion.
was to accept the contract as it is, and I received a second.
I'll make a motion to amend your motion to make it a 1-year contract, which he's agreed to, and I think that's serves the interests of everybody, given the mistake that was made.
I thought Eric did a really good job of explaining the mistake and taking accountability, and I really appreciated that. It seems like he really knows what he's talking about, so I'm happy to go with Steve's original motion.
Okay, so that motion fails. My motion again, to enter into the current contract, begins on August 1st, 2021, and ends on June 30th, 2023. As I have a second.
Well, hold on. Should we amend this contract to start on June 30th?
Well, just to alleviate some of your concerns, I think I have a provision in the contract that you could terminate it within like 60 days notice.
He's asking for the starting date, Eric.
Starting date was I've actually been working without a contract since August 1st. So the starting date is like August 1st.
So it dovetails.
Right, exactly.
Your suggestion is to make it June 30th or July 1st?
I would say, I have, whatever you guys want to do, but I wouldn't be fair to you guys to have a contract only through till June 30th. You should make it a month or two later than that if you wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so
All right.
so do you think it would be fair to amend it to it's through August or through September?
I'd say September 30th because that way you can be sure that we can get the free cash done and so forth. And if you choose to do a new town account, it'll be an easier transition, because you'll have all your books closed and what have you. So I think it's in the town's best interest to make an expiration date like on September 30th.
So.
He asked me what I thought after I raised my hand.
Okay, what do you think, John?
I think that's a good idea, and I'll tell you why. Last year, we signed a warrant for a town meeting on September 24th, I believe. And free cash had to be certified in time because we used some of it. So we actually certified, I don't know if it was a rush job or not, but we certified it on the 20th, 4 days before town meeting. So we actually wrote a warrant to use free cash that we didn't have until a couple days later. So it's a good idea to have eyes on
Longer
everything.
longer contracts are good, and again, especially when it comes to the planning process. So
Are we going to amend this?
okay. So then I'd like to amend my original motion that we enter into this contract with Eric Kinship with the sole exception of changing the expiration date from June 30th of 2023 to September 30th of 2023.
2022 or whatever you want to do.
2 years is fine.
Eric, 2 years is fine.
Okay.
You're in your own way. So that is my complete motion. So to accept it and extend it to September 30th of 2023.
Second.
I vote yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Wait, you gotta wait to hear what John says.
I can't wait.
He might hurt your feelings.
Did John vote on that?
No, he's thinking about it. It's a.
John,
There's
everybody
a
makes
provision in
mistakes.
there. He owned up to
Okay,
it.
I'll
We should
vote
all,
yes.
that's the Monterey way. Okay. Oh, do we have to initial this change on the
Yes, you
front
do.
there, or no? Does it
Yes,
make
you
it
do.
work?
Eric, you don't want to just send a revised contract for them to sign?
No. Let's
Should
just,
initial it.
let's initial it.
So you need to change it on page 3 as well.
Okay, we'll change it on page 3. I'm going to go find it on page 3. September 30th. Sorry, my handwriting is a little. Yeah, that's right. Write it on top of there.
Oh, yeah.
Can I've had my hand up. Can I just, this is Rebecca.
Sure.
I just have two questions, and I'd like one, I really think that the finance committee should be able to talk to the accountant, because that's what the finance committee is responsible for that. The other thing I'd like is a commitment from both the finance committee and the select board that this extra free cash isn't going to be spent on new trucks and things, that it'll be returned back to the taxpayers. Because we're going to have 400,000 of extra free cash. I think it should go back to the taxpayers.
So obviously, that would be up to the people at town meeting.
Right, but you put the budget together and you make the decisions during finance and select board meetings. So I'd like a commitment that, or for you to that this mistake gets returned back to the taxpayers. Because our tax bills are higher now this year.
We wouldn't be in a position to make a commitment like that.
It's always.
John can make.
It's always an option to turn it back to the taxpayers. That's essentially what lowering the levy is.
I believe that the taxpayers should get as much benefit as possible, and that's always been the goal.
It's their money.
Personal goal.
It's not our money.
Okay, so we signed the contract, Eric.
Thank you.
Can Eric stay for number 3?
Sure. I don't know, Eric. Do you want to stay for the next one?
I don't know if he knows what it is.
Sure. I'll take doing number 3. No problem.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Where our ridiculous alarm just went off. Oh, do you have to go?
No.
So I just want to say something. May I say something to Eric? Eric, again, I think thank you very much for explaining this and for taking responsibility where responsibility is needed. It's very important that we've had issues with many different accountants over in the past and things like that. Everybody makes mistakes. If you have a question, please ask, and I think you have an understanding of Monterey a little bit better. And so this will work with you in any way possible just to make sure that everything is done correctly. Okay. Thank you. But say, John would like to.
So I actually put this on the, Eric, you're still there, right?
Yes.
I actually put this on the agenda because, and I explained it before, but I'll explain it again.
It says JW.
I don't see anything on here.
That's our.
I don't see. I asked for it at the last meeting, so
it's on
in a public meeting. So Eric, the reason why I asked for it is because a previous select board made a policy that no finance committee members could contact the accountant. And I remember when you and I had our discussions about the reserve, the revolving fund problems on the warrant. And I thought that those discussions that I had with you and that I had with your accountant were really worthwhile. And once again, when the tax recap sheet issue came up, I was unable to contact you, and I was unable to contact Lisa. And so instead of you and I hashing this out 2 weeks ago, we had to go to the DOR, and we had to do triple work to figure out who actually was responsible and what we could do to improve things. So I also have lots of questions for the account, not lots, but I have a number during the course of the year as a finance committee member. And so I have asked that the finance committee, which is responsible for recommending the budget to town meeting and is responsible for reviewing it and holding public hearings and making sure it's right, really should have access to the town accountant. So I hope that you would agree that it would be beneficial for everyone if finance committee members can contact the town accountant directly.
And select board members.
Well, and select board members, but I'm stumping for my own stuff.
It's almost like so John,
I asked him a question. Can
Yeah.
he answer it?
Eric, John
Yes.
would like to know if he can.
I mean, do you have an objection to any finance committee member contacting you directly about an issue and getting a question answered, so that I don't have to go to the DOR?
Right. Well,
We signed your contract.
the only issue that I have with it is that sometimes, if talking to individual members at a time, like somebody on your committee, so like John, if I talk to you, and then so somebody else from your committee is going to talk to me, then a board of selectmen member is going to talk to me. It's not that efficient, and it's not very So if we could have like a standing time, like once a month to meet, or some sort of standing meeting, that way any questions could accumulate. We could address all the issues.
I understand what you're saying, but in neither case did I have a month. Could I have waited a month to talk to you? So I think that
Or like in it's just like it's good having a gatekeeper, but like say if it's Melissa or the selectman, it would be up to them if they say, yeah, you can contact them. I have this issue. Yeah, go ahead and contact them directly.
you're a gatekeeper and we got wrong information about what had happened.
Well, I think also, because I was there, I think the origin of the original policy was the fact that I don't believe it was Eric, but I believe it was another account where they were being peppered with lots of questions.
Well, I don't do that. I understand that, but we shouldn't make a policy based on that particular
First of all, okay, I understand that. The board did receive a communication from the chair of the finance committee, who actually wanted to have a discussion within the finance committee about this.
But that doesn't happen, Steve. We haven't had a meeting in a month. And there's no meeting scheduled.
There are no meetings scheduled for the finance committee?
No. So how is a finance committee member supposed to operate when there's no finance committee?
I believe the finance committee should.
Okay, I asked a simple question. I'm asking the select board to make a motion to allow individual finance committee members to contact the accountant.
Well, I'm going to amend that to select board members also, because it's ridiculous that we can't talk to the town accountant.
I agree with you, but that's a different motion.
So it's an amendment to your motion.
Well, I can't make a motion. You guys have to make the motion.
I thought you did.
In the past, the select board, the finance committee, and the accountant used to meet monthly, and that has stopped. And in fact, I don't think you've had a meeting with the finance committee yet since May. I don't think they've really met. So, that could help out.
There's a thing there. They're saying the monthly meeting. When did that happen? That didn't happen when I've been on the select board. Monthly meetings with the select board and the finance committee.
Not since the past two accountants, there hasn't been a.
So yeah, that probably hasn't happened since. Well, John, when you?
We don't want to talk about
since he went to jail. But besides that, before that, we did used to meet monthly with the ones you hired and the ones that were elected.
Look, you guys are belaboring this.
So listen. The thing is,
I was at the meetings. I remember.
All right, Rebecca, I understand. The thing is this, Eric. You want to have 6 people call you and ask you the same question? You want to have 2 people call you and ask the same question? You want to have 1 person ask you?
No, because like if I spend 30, 40 hours a week on answering questions, that the 37,000, I think I'll be like collecting twins.
I think you're exaggerating.
No, I know.
I think we should be discussing the finance committee.
No. We can do it. Asking the select board. It's a select board policy. You are telling the finance committee they cannot directly contact the account.
I'm personally not comfortable with somebody, with three finance committee members contacting the town accountant, each asking their own specific question, and then what do they do with the answers?
They take it to the finance committee meeting, if we ever have one.
So that's six people contacting the town accountant. The last time that happened, they basically said either stop it or we're gonna change our rates.
I'm simply not going to be accused of asking bad questions or taking up too much of the accountant's time. I've never done it, I never will, and I'm offended that you were suggesting it.
I'm not suggesting it
Okay,
at
so
all.
just
But I
take up
think
the
a little
motion or
sensitive
not.
when it comes to that. I think that certainly there should be meetings, actually, to Rebecca's point, I think that there should be meetings with the accountant. However, that's going to require, yes, yes, Eric.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
If there is an issue, like on a case by case basis, I would think this might be the proper. This might be a suggestion that if the finance committee or a particular member wants to contact with us directly, they'll put it like in an email or something, and it'll go to Melissa or the Board of Selectmen. Then you guys can decide, like, all right, yeah, Eric, I want you
I did, Eric, and I never got a response.
You actually did get a response.
It was incorrect. The response
You
was
got a
incorrect,
response.
and you wrote it, not the
No,
accountant.
I took it exactly from the town accountant.
Yes, it was wrong, and if I'd spoken to her personally, we would have gotten it right. And that's why we had this meeting tonight.
Okay, so
wouldn't a new policy have prevented the mistake and someone would have caught it?
No.
Before you caught it?
Oh, what you?
Yeah, I mean,
so wait a minute, you're asking John, what?
I had to call the
catch this
DOR
mistake?
to get you to supply the documents that supported the warrants. You remember that incident last year? So this is a problem with your firm, is that no one can contact you except Melissa. And then it gets filtered, and then things are, third-hand information. It's hearsay. So that's the problem. And that's what we're trying to resolve.
So the way to resolve it is for the questions and answers to be in an email, so in a written form. And if it comes from Eric, then it comes from Eric. If it comes from Melissa, it comes from Melissa.
I don't know what that means.
So
I want to be able to contact the accountant.
I do too. And I think I should be entitled.
Eric, do you want to get 6 emails from 6 different people asking 6 different questions?
You're making stories.
No, it's not a story. It's not a story.
Why is it up to Eric? It should be up to you three.
I have a question. Eric, you said that you have, I have my hand up. Can I just, I think I may have a simple solution. Eric, you said you have just so many hours, and of course, you're in this business to make money. What is a reasonable amount of questions for you on a monthly basis from the finance committee and the board, other boards and commissions? What is too much that you won't make money? Like, do you have any idea?
I'd say like a half dozen questions would not be that big of a deal to answer. But I don't want to answer the same questions to the same people. Like if I tell John something, this is how it works with the revolving funds. Then I get a call from somebody else. Was John right at the meeting? He said this. I want to talk to the accountant. Is that right? Then one of the Board of Selectmen calls me and says, this is a controversial issue. What's going on with this? That's a issue. But I'd say like a half dozen inquiries a month, and maybe 1 or 2 phone conversations, then the rest get responded by email. Something like that would be reasonable.
Okay, so why not have the board, the finance committee or any board that needs to speak to you, CC everybody on the Board of Selectmen so they're aware of the questions, so you don't have Steve asking the same question or Justin or John. They'll be able to get the answers, and you can hit reply all.
No, it can be an open meeting.
Yeah, you could get.
You know what I'm saying?
I meet weekly.
An open meeting law
I'm not
violation.
getting the correct
Questions,
answer.
They can attend my meeting and get the answers directly.
No,
and then we're all involved.
I needed to send an email to Lisa. I sent one to her. She would not reply to me.
So Melissa made a suggestion.
We're not going to do that.
You want to have your own private meeting? You want to have your own private discussion with? Is that it?
Then the parties involved would all have the answers, and
but I didn't get the correct answer.
We're not talking about the past right now.
Well, you
We're
just
trying
did
to
a minute
talk
ago.
about moving forward.
Moving forward, I think that
Is
6
there something
questions
funny,
a
John?
month
Yeah.
would
Someone
be great.
that constantly
Hey,
brings
yes,
up hearsay
yes, there
Six
is
questions a
something.
month.
Well, tell
But
it, tell
John,
it, please.
John, if
This
you're
is
gonna ask
ridiculous.
what happens if you ask them 6 questions? Does everybody get 6 questions? I mean, really, no, seriously. If there are questions, look. Here's the thing. We just had an incident where something didn't go correctly, and I'm really concerned. And I'm not trying to freeze you out, John. I'm really
Why isn't
concerned
anyone on the,
that.
what is your opinion, Justin? I'm sitting here wondering.
Well, first of all, the issue we just had went down with our current policy in place that John Silbert is asking to change. And second of all, the finance committee is elected, and instead of preventing them from speaking to the accountant, they represent the taxpayers. We should empower them with being able to speak to the accountant and know what's going on, because how can the finance committee serve the taxpayers if they don't know what's going on?
So
Put it in a
I would
motion.
suggest that the chair of the finance committee be.
No, not the chair.
They haven't met.
But here's the thing.
Can you make a motion? Can somebody make a motion?
Yeah, I can make a motion.
Thank you.
I think the issue with the select board is different because we meet
Yeah, just stick
and we
to the
can ask the
finance
select
committee.
board. We meet with each other, I think, and we work for the taxpayers as well, but specifically the finance committee should be the fiscal watchdog and should be aware of the town finances. Otherwise, they can't serve the taxpayers in the capacity they're being asked to.
Why don't you make your motion that the finance committee can contact the accountant, ask questions when the finance committee votes on what those questions are that are to be posed?
Because 2 of the members of the finance committee have about as.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Make the motion.
I'm gonna make a motion for individual members of the finance committee to be able to ask questions to our appointed town accountant.
I'm going to amend that motion to include the select board.
No, he just said take it up separately.
Who did? Okay, I'll withdraw my amendment. What is it again, please?
I make a motion for members of the finance committee to be able to communicate with our town accountant for the purpose of learning about our finances so they can serve the taxpayer.
I'll second it.
All right, so we can open up to public. Susan, I see your hand up.
I'm assuming that Eric, like most contractors do, keeps records of time spent.
Yes.
Perhaps if you keep an accurate record of how frequently you're contacted and whether or not you're being asked the same question repeatedly, that would, if this turns out to be a problem going forward, perhaps if we see what the pattern is, we can alter the policy in the future to reflect a way to solve whatever problem does actually arise. I mean, it may have been a function of a past series of people, and it may turn out not to be a problem now, or it may be a problem, in which case, if we know what's actually happening, perhaps we can craft a solution that serves both purposes, because if information is not flowing accurately, that's a problem. And that has been a problem in the past, so.
That sounds great, Susan, and I think also it's a point that you made to not make rules based on controlling other people or assuming the worst out of them. And, if it does become a problem, hopefully Eric will let us know, but I think we gotta make, policies.
So if it does become a problem, I can I'll let Melissa know, and I'll say, hey, can we discuss this on an agenda? And I'll just say, hey, listen, we spent 40 hours a week talking to X, Y, and Z. Is there something that you can do or whatever, but if it's not a big deal, it's not a big, so it's fine. We keep track of that stuff. So if it becomes an issue, I can let you know if it becomes a problem.
Thank you for working with us, Eric.
Yeah, no problem.
I really think it's is what's best for our town.
So any more comments? Yeah, we need to vote. There's no more comments.
All right, so I'll go first. Listen, I will, John.
He wants to discuss his vote.
I want to discuss, so actually, I was prepared to vote no, but I'm going to vote yes, Eric, with the understanding that if this is becoming too much of a burden, that you reach out immediately in
Yes,
writing, okay, from you to the board and the town administrator, okay, because you shouldn't be sidetracked beyond your actual duties. However, the more information out there, and
absolutely.
I do appreciate John Silbert's watchful eye.
He's good. I mean,
Yeah.
No.
So the more information out there, the better. But John,
Listen,
Pipe it down a little bit.
I called him twice in 3 years. And actually, I emailed him and he called me.
okay, all right. So I'm gonna vote yes. Yeah. What?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Now, my motion is that the select board, each individual member can contact the town accountant.
Now you're in trouble. All right, so
We're meeting weekly. I don't see any reason we can't bring those concerns to weekly meetings, I guess. And
So you're gonna answer financial issues.
no,
Okay.
but
Well,
if I have a
the
question of the
finance
accountant, or you have a question of the accountant, or Steve has a question of the accountant, we can bring it to the select board meeting and pass it on, but that way we can stay in the loop. But we have a chain of communication by meeting weekly, which other boards and
Okay.
committees,
That's fair.
maybe to no fault of their own, but don't have that
That's
same.
fair. I agree.
okay, good. So we're moving on. Eric,
all right. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night. And
you gotta pass the Lake Garfield.
Eric, thank you very much.
all right, you're making us better accountants. Thanks.
Okay.
All right,
That's
take
all I'm
care. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Good. Okay, so we're a little bit behind schedule now, but let's continue, shall we? Town administrator items, accept the police donation. So
we have a $100 police donation that I need the board to vote to accept.
So on occasion, we do get folks that would like to donate to Monterey Police Department. There are always token donations. The department appreciates it, and we usually accept them. So I'm going to make a motion to accept the police donation.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Unanimous. Okay. Special town meeting date, November 16th. So this is a date that, clerk?
Yes, the council provided one date and the moderator was available for a few more. It has since been brought to my attention that lighting does not work at the pavilion, so.
It's hard to hear Melissa from
From
the speakers there.
I did reach back out to the clerk and the moderator about which Saturdays between October and November they can come to a town meeting, and I have not received a response yet from either.
So right now, wait a minute. So
Why
right
does it
now
say November?
it's scheduled on a Tuesday?
That was the only date that the clerk was available for the time span that I gave them.
Okay. And this is still going to be done in the pavilion?
So I did speak to the fire chief, and he did say that we could hold it in the firehouse, but he imagines that there would be a lot of people that would be against that.
Because of COVID? Have you reached out to the health department to see if that works within the guidelines? I mean, obviously everybody would be wearing masks. There's plenty of ventilation in the firehouse.
So I did not, because I need a date first.
Gotcha. Well, if the clerk's only available on November 16th, then let's do it on November 16th. I mean,
That will be in the evening, right?
Yes, yes, it wouldn't be during the day.
But I need a backup because if we can't have it in the inside, there's no outdoor lighting in the pavilion, so we can't have it at night.
The lights in the pavilion work.
The lights on the outside don't work, as your father
Ah.
pointed out, and people would not be able to see in the parking and in
Why don't
the
they work?
sidewalk. I don't know.
Can they be fixed before November 16th?
Apparently not.
Are there any other alternative dates that the town clerk has available that we can have?
What are the Saturdays in November?
Saturdays in November are the 6th, the 13th, the 20th.
The
And-
6th, I could do it on the 6th.
Okay. You want to check with the moderator?
I'll check with the moderator, and if that works, I will work on
Thank you.
scheduling that. And what time would you want that at? 9, 10, 12, 1?
Oh, right. So
Sorry?
1.
I would do it at the potentially warmest part of the day.
Yeah, so what is that? Noon, 1?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
Is that a general consensus?
1 sounds fine for me.
I like 1.
Okay,
And that works for Carrie?
okay. So we're gonna just check with the moderator.
I have just an ancillary question. A couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, you guys agreed that you would email the finance committee because you're putting money on the warrant and the finance committee has to weigh in on it. Have they received an email from you yet about the town meeting?
So I have spoken to the chair.
Have you emailed her?
I have spoken and emailed with the chair, yes.
Okay.
And she is waiting for a date of the meeting.
Okay.
So that she knows what the deadline is, and her intention is to have a meeting.
Can you speak up? I can't hear.
Okay, thank you.
You really need to speak up so everyone can hear.
Unfortunately, we don't have an ideal setup, but we're working on that, hopefully.
The L camera's on sale, actually.
So
I
basically,
purchased it already.
yep.
Oh, did you get the discount?
I paid $875 for it.
I think that's the discount. Excellent.
Yes, so November 6th, Rebecca, and yes, and the finance committee obviously must meet prior to that. At least once or twice. Okay, the number 1C, review low income discount.
I sent you guys the draft of the low-income subsidy program that's being proposed for the Fiber Connect. If anybody has any objections to it, you can let me know so I can have the group that's working on it make the changes, and everybody's got to vote on it. If not, they'd like to get moving with this as soon as possible.
Okay, so everybody want to read it and be prepared to vote on it in the next select board
So I
meeting?
sent it to you guys. You should have read it.
When did I get it?
It looks good. It looks good.
So listen, I have no problem. They're using, just for everybody's edification, Fiber Connect did agree to provide a subsidy or a lower price for people that have financial challenges. And the problem was, or the challenge was, that we didn't know how to actually make that determination. So I see that they've actually identified certain programs that if the individual or the family is part of, which are assistance programs, that should be the qualification for the Fiber Connect discount. The only thing that I don't see here is that if for some reason an individual or family is not part of one of these things, that they have the right to they should have the right to appeal or something like this, like to appeal to Fiber Connect and say, hey, listen, I'm not available for any of this, but I don't know.
But then they'll have to spend time going through people's individual finances, which seem like, they mentioned in there, they're not going to ask for any additional personal finance other than this, which just makes it heck of a lot simpler, right?
I understand that, but I'm saying that let's say somebody has a dramatic change in their circumstance.
Well, you reapply every year, right?
No, but I'm saying, all right, but I'm just giving a little opening for just in case there's somebody falls outside these things.
So Fiber Connect isn't willing to do any of the work that would go behind to determine if someone is eligible, looking at all their financials and this and that. These are accepted programs. This is actually what Charter and Spectrum use, and that's what they are willing to do.
Okay. Fine.
I have a question. Are we subsidizing this or is Fiber Connect?
No, fiber, that's part of the agreement that Fiber Connect signed is that they would provide.
So why do we need to get involved with a private company and how they put together their financial aid? Usually it's set off of the poverty level set by the federal government.
I understand that. However, the actual contract states that the town would negotiate with Fiber Connect to provide a low-income subsidy that they would accept within 6 months of signing up the contract. So that it was actually in the contract that that the town was going to be involved in it. Because again,
so we are paying the difference of what?
No, we're not paying the difference. But
okay.
The program itself needed to be approved. It wasn't written prior to the contract. It needed to be approved after the contract was signed, and this is it in front of us.
Well, if you need the poverty levels, I could give it to you. That's how we do our financial aid. We take it from the federal government for the Berkshires, so I can send that to you.
Right. So this contract does it does identify that. Obviously, it's not going to identify the poverty level because that's going to always change. But it doesn't. Okay, so I move that we accept it as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right, we accept it. Good. I'm glad we got it done under the wire. Please thank Fiber Connect for this program. Request to change office hours. Whose office hours?
Mine.
Oh.
You have a memo about it?
Okay. Is this meeting being recorded?
Yes.
Okay.
I motion to table this issue until we've been able to meet with, like, we were going to.
Who?
With Brian from KP.
About?
Well, we have ongoing business that we're dealing with, and I motion to table this issue until we can attend to that.
We've got legal issues.
I didn't say legal issues. Well, I sent a letter to you and John, and I just feel like we should deal with it.
But regardless of what that's an entirely different issue. This is a scheduling issue, not an employment issue. It's just a scheduling issue. So obviously, if there's an employment issue and a situation changes, that would affect it. But this is just strictly a scheduling.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's like with the accountant. We were going to renew the contract, and so we made sure we settled our business with them and made sure we're on the same page before we.
But this is not a contract. This is just like the clerk's changed the schedule a couple times, and we accommodated her. Melissa's looking to change the schedule, so we're looking to accommodate her. It's just an accommodation for the folks that are actually.
No, it doesn't.
Usually you discuss a motion to get a second. He did.
Well, I'm sorry. What was it?
It was to table this until we are able to have to discuss. So we're able to have discussions that I communicated to the board and we haven't discussed yet.
Okay, I'll second it.
I just feel like it's appropriate.
To not change the schedule based on the outstanding issues?
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to meet, I've been asking to put it on the agenda for a number of weeks, different
sounds like it's coming up.
Exactly. Well, it's been pushed back and pushed for different reasons, but
But it's not, it has nothing to do with scheduling, Justin. I think it's that, I understand where you're coming from, but it really is just, it is just strictly, scheduling and we're gonna have that discussion at the next meeting, and everything's gonna get all fleshed out, but as far as, I mean, you know that if you say to the attorney, oh, by the way, let's talk about the schedule, he's gonna say, that's not my.
it's not about the schedule. It's about, I feel like we've been not dealing with business that we need to deal with.
So it's coming. It's coming.
It's
in the next
been
meeting.
coming
It's all
for
scheduled.
2 months.
So it's all scheduled, but it's scheduled.
But no.
You made a motion, why don't you vote?
Wait,
All right.
I'm gonna, I think he makes the point, which I didn't get at first, but now I understand. This is just appearing within 3 days or whenever, whoever put this on. Justin has stuff and I have stuff that have been lingering for months.
So
now we're gonna decide something that's just been on the agenda within a week, and we still haven't discussed the stuff that's been on the agenda for 2 months.
So John, when it came
He
to
makes a good point.
So okay, so I understand his point, but when we're talking about scheduling, and sorry, Terry, I apologize for using you as the example, but you've asked to change schedules, and we accommodated you. It was just a scheduling thing. That's it. It didn't, and we made time in the agenda for that scheduling issue. So I'm just saying that right now, we're looking to treat each employee, regardless of the other issues that may be out there that are going to be addressed.
They're not out there, they were sent to you and John.
I understand
and
that.
I want
They're gonna be
it dealt with, and it should be in a timely manner, because it's not good for anyone.
It's on the agenda for the next meeting.
So let me just, the timeliness of any of the things have nothing to do with me. They weren't put off because of me, they were put off because of schedules, you guys not making a decision on how you wanted to handle things, so I shouldn't be punished for you guys actually.
It's just a schedule change. It doesn't.
Okay.
Can I, as a point of information, this is a public document, can somebody, what's the schedule?
It's a 4-day, a lot of people are going to 4-day work weeks, and you mentioned some people have found it to be more productive, which is true. And so Melissa's requesting a 4-day work week. She'd work longer on Wednesdays because we have our select board meetings then, and not work on Fridays. But what was the total hours?
Actually work longer on Monday and Tuesday too, right?
Yeah.
7:30 a.m.
I could read the whole memo if you'd like, since you guys usually.
Can I just make a recommendation that you actually look at this as a policy? Melissa's not the only employee who could request 4-day work weeks. So maybe you should have a policy about that first.
You know what?
So that you're fair to all the employees.
You know what, John? That's an extremely good point. That's not germane to this particular.
Well,
I agree with John. What's good for
I
one
agree
is
with
good for
John
all.
too.
And I think there
If
was
you
a
have an
motion made
HR
and a verse being done.
All right. Okay. I know. I understand everybody's opinion. This is just talking about scheduling, and then very next meeting is going to be a discussion of.
The office shouldn't be closed.
Okay, please.
You need a policy.
I'm not a policy for every single employee.
What are we doing about the motion?
Yes, otherwise you're being discriminatory.
Do you want to?
You're being discriminatory if you give one person a 4-day work week who works full-time and not the others.
John.
So if other employees are given discretionary time and others are not, is that also discriminatory?
I think my personal.
Also, why should the offices be closed?
Yeah.
You have no policy. Okay. Make a policy.
It doesn't matter, she's a salaried employee, she gets no overtime, let her work 50 hours. She gets paid for it.
Listen, it's not a simple thing to try to treat every employee the same. Everybody's got their own challenges. Everybody wants to make their own hours, and we try to accommodate the best we could. I do again and sorry, Terry, I apologize again. But when the clerk made a suggestion, we approved it without a lot of back and forth because we trust her as far as being available for the people in the town, and Melissa wants to change her hours. She should be looked at it in the very same way, that as long as there's accessibility, as long as the work gets done, and the amount of hours are being worked, then she should be changed. She should be treated the same way. And yes, John, if another employee comes up here and says, "Listen, I'd like to change my hours," are they working?
Excuse me, but the town hall is not closed when the clerk is not there. The town hall is closed when Melissa's not there every single time.
Listen, guys, I understand. I get it. I get it.
Wait. Steve, you have never worked for a company. Tell me, Steve, what company have you ever worked for that lets the employees decide their hours? Most companies now, since COVID is over, is going back to in-person, not remote working and not 4-day works. She's a 5-day employee. And that's what it should be.
Motion as a board, let's vote on the tabling motion and then go from there.
Okay. You made the motion.
Mm-hmm.
Who seconded?
Seconded. Time to vote no.
Steve, will you sit in the office and keep the office open on Fridays so Melissa can take off?
They're voting now, Rebecca, they're voting.
No.
You're not tabling it?
No.
I don't need to vote.
I thought he was voting no to table it.
So can I make a motion to accept their scheduling changes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I voted no to tabling the issue.
Okay.
Because, you know, there's a point that it's a schedule and that we'll deal with the other, I hope we'll deal with the other issues in a timely manner.
So you withdraw your motion.
Do I have to withdraw my motion too?
Well,
It's already been voted no.
You voted no to your motion, so it's no to no to.
So no is unanimous. I just want to get it right
Yeah.
in minutes. Mm-hmm.
No unanimous.
I'm not gonna vote on it.
One abstention. Okay, so I'd like to make a new motion and we accept the schedule as written from Melissa. Do I have a second? Okay, there's no second, so that motion fails too. All right, so we're just gonna move on then.
I'm sorry, Steve, I don't mean to interrupt again. I think this school committee hopeful has been here for a long time. Is there any way you could change the order?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
And get her out of here?
You don't even have to make a motion.
Okay.
Let's do it. John, good. You should.
Good catch.
Good catch. All right. John's gonna be a sergeant of arms.
Yeah. Well, I just,
No, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I thought I didn't know.
I have the kids to put to bed.
I didn't know who you were.
Just waiting for me.
I didn't know who you were.
No
Believe me, we should have put you in front of the poll hearing then. But anyway, all right. So let's get to that. Let's get to number 2, and then we're gonna go back to the town administrator items. So I just want to explain that because I understand that you wrote in that you'd like to fill that vacancy. I just wanted to explain that that it's our fault that we should have actually posted the job because we're supposed to post the job.
Right.
And we neglected to do that.
I saw it.
It's been posted for 2 weeks.
No, I know we neglected to do it earlier.
Right.
That's the point. But then now we have done it. We have posted the job properly. Has there been any other? No one else has come forth. So I make a motion. I'm sorry. Laura Rodriguez. That's right. I make a motion to appoint Laura Rodriguez to the school committee.
I second that motion and I vote yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Thank you so much for your service.
I'm gonna go sorry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Good. All right. Good catch. Good catch, John. That's good. All right. So now we're gonna go back to our regularly scheduled program here.
I make a motion that we table the remaining administrative items and jump down to number 3.
Well, I have a redo letter that needs to be signed today.
Yeah, and town administrative items are generally for the
that's my motion.
business of the town.
I amend the motion to deal with 1E and then I don't make any motion.
Okay, so there's no second, so let's just see if we can.
Well, I'll second John's motion, which was to, no, sorry. I'll amend John's motion, deal with 1E, and then move to 3.
Table F and G and move to item 3?
Yes.
I'll second that amendment.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
I'm gonna vote no. All right, so where are we going now?
1E, and then to number 3.
Read a grant letter of support.
Why was it redone?
You know, it's called the
Yeah, so read it.
Regional Economic Development Organization Grant Program. You don't have it in your packet because I emailed it to you all.
I'll motion to approve the redo grant.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Very hard to do this with a mask on. You guys look at them.
Okay, so F and G is tabled. Number 2 has been done. Number 3, accept terms and conditions of YouTube account.
I motion to accept the terms and conditions of YouTube account.
Second.
Okay, now that it's been seconded, there's gonna be discussion. Justin. Everything that we all do on social media, which includes YouTube, will follow us for the rest of our lives. Some of us on this side kind of burnt up half our life. So I don't have to look for a job in the future, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I don't know if this guy's gonna need to look for a job 10 or 20 years from now, but it is my understanding, that should somebody be seeking employment, that that employer has the ability to look at all the things that are left over on social media in perpetuity. So that is one of the reasons why I don't love the idea of a YouTube presence. Although yes, people are free to run my pretty face on YouTube whenever they want. The other thing is, and I'll just make it, the other thing is that there will be times in the 3 years or 6 years or 9 years or however long you're on the board that there will be issues where people want to have discussions with the board that are not, even though it is a public meeting, but there may or there may not be a video component to it in the future. But may want to have discussions that they don't necessarily want to show up on YouTube. It was, I have been approached over the years, because at one point there was a sort of people filming things and whatever. And again, they have the absolute right to do so, but there were some points where people felt uncomfortable coming to the board to discuss matters because they didn't want to end up in the media. Again, it's an open meeting. It is a public meeting, and yes, if somebody is here, they can certainly hear it all. So these are the 2 reasons why I'm not going to vote for it. Obviously, you guys can do with it what you may.
Well, I'm voting yes because it provides complete transparency of what's going on in government. I'm a big fan of transparency in local government, so I'm voting yes to accept the terms.
Yeah. I'll vote for the reasons stated.
And I'll vote yes.
Item number 4, I think is very important, because this has come up before. It came up when you were on the board, John. But but through an error or whatever, we scheduled a select board meeting on Yom Kippur. There are several days that people of many faiths find particularly poignant and would not like to have meetings on those days or feel it's disrespectful. A lot of these religious holidays do not appear on the federal calendar, and a lot of them are. A search was done over many towns, and every different town approaches it differently. Here in Monterey, I think we pride ourselves on being respectful for all faiths, including people who don't have faiths, and we're trying to be accommodating. And I understand that. So these were the religious. So there's already we already voted in not having a meeting on federal. I mean, we didn't have to vote it in. We don't have meetings on federal days, which are presented here on page 1. There are the suggestion is to not have that the town make a policy not to have meetings on the first night of Rosh Hashanah, the first the Yom Kippur, which is only one night, the first 2 nights of Passover, Good Friday, and the first night of Hanukkah. I did do a search to try to find out if there were any holidays of the for the Islamic faith, but I didn't find any. If there's anybody in the public that actually is of Muslim faith and actually or of other faiths and wants to contact the town and make a recommendation, the board will certainly take it up. But I think that right now, so we don't get caught with our kippah off. I would make a motion that the town of Monterey have an official policy not to have it on these holy days that are considered holy days. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Have any discussion?
You can easily Google online when all the holidays are.
I got them here. I'm just putting it out to just in case there are people of other faiths that I don't want this to be discriminatory in any way. So I vote yes.
Yes.
Yes. Why is this even on the agenda?
Because it's very
we
sensitive.
accidentally almost had a meeting.
Some people were really upset. And why make people upset?
You should have thought of that 6 years ago. But anyways, it's a good thing that you got this done, Steve. We got it on the agenda for all the old items. That's great.
Well, I guess there's somebody that's still upset.
No, I'm not upset.
Okay, and by the way, just the first night of Rosh Hashanah. The Rosh Hashanah is like how many days? 8 days? Sorry. Okay, so approved minutes. 8/19, 9/1, 9/8, 9/15.
So 8/19 has a few amendments.
Where are they?
They don't have them in there, I have them here. In paragraph 2, it was changed have to has. Instead of saying Justin recused himself as he will be getting, changed it to was offered to be.
Offered to refuse himself?
No,
Offered
it was
to be
offered to be
paid.
paid.
Oh, boy, it's going for
On
that.
page 2, he took out, she explained that for the most part, he took out the word only. And on the last page, he added, Justin said tax money is always a consideration, but it's not his only consideration. He added, he is also concerned about the quality of services, and he will take responsibility for this at town meeting, added, if the legal budget increases. And as far as the
public records request made of John. Justin took out, John stated he didn't have it here, it was at home.
John who?
Weingold.
Okay, I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
All in favor, yes?
Yes.
No.
Okay, the 9/1 meeting. Page 1, item B1, accurately was added, the word. Item 2, Justin took out, which he asserts he did not know was a public records request. Added council on aging. Page 2, added John Silbert noted that the RAO always has the option to narrow requests appropriately so that they are not unreasonable.
Is that accurate, what you said?
It may be accurate, but is it the only thing I said?
The discussion, I believe, in the minutes was about, Melissa brought up, what if people send in frivolous records requests?
Yes.
Based on our policy that public officials and boards can ask without getting charged.
Yes.
And I believe you said the requests can be narrowed as usual.
Yes.
To prevent frivolous public records requests.
I guess not having been given a draft of the minutes myself, I can't really, I mean, I can say that is correct, but I want to make sure that nothing else I said was omitted.
Well, the recording, I mean, they're recorded, so.
So page 3, item 3, a complaint was changed to a complaint Steve claims was filed by John.
Yeah, I do think it's weird to say,
Corrected a typo.
well, I think if,
That's fine.
Yeah.
What?
well, sometimes people make claims, oh, so-and-so sent in this complaint, and they don't know, they're asserting that that person did, and rather than say the complaint so-and-so made and then correct, he claims he didn't, I would rather just say that.
Don't you think we should be using people's last names?
Item 5.
Does it say
Justin.
John or does it say John Weingold? Which John?
Well, yours is spelled Jon and his is spelled
I don't think that
John,
helps the
which is
public.
noticed in the attendance of the minutes.
Okay, I'm asking you to add people's last names to the
Item 5, Justin amended the sentence
Why don't we
to say,
decide?
Justin suggested putting together an ad hoc committee to interview outside investigators and suggest one to the select board. Page 3, item 10. Can't really see, oh, you took out the double A. And that's it.
Motion to approve those minutes.
I second that motion. All in favor? I say
Yes.
Yes. No.
Minutes of 9/8, item 1, Justin removed, no one recalled this.
What was that in the context?
That was, the context was that Gary said only the board says it's okay, since the last time he did, he wasn't able to answer a question, and the previous board said if he can't answer everything, he shouldn't be covering it, but no one recalled this, and Justin took it out.
Well, Gary recalled it for one.
Yeah.
Gary's a
I
person,
do too.
and obviously John and I'm not gonna know. Because I wasn't on the select board back when this happened, and John wasn't, I don't think.
So wait, but are we talking about the board?
So we put,
are
no
we
one
talking about
recalled
board
this,
action,
but
or was
Gary
it
You
was,
should say no one on the board recalled
Yeah,
this.
no one on the board recalled.
well, I wasn't around,
I know.
so I don't think it's noted.
Well, no one on the board recalled.
He wasn't talking about this board.
Or, like, well, it's just, do you wanna just put, like, Steve didn't recall it because you weren't on the board and John wasn't on
Yeah, you can put Steve.
the board. Steve didn't recall.
Who actually said it?
I said it.
Gary said it.
But no, who
Oh.
said
Ken
that
Dazzler.
no one recalled it?
Oh,
I
Steve
said
did.
I don't recall it.
Oh, okay, then
I
he's
said-
right.
I said
This is-
Yeah,
that's
Steve
good.
did.
I actually said it. I actually said those very words.
Perfect.
I
As
haven't-
long as you said it, that's great.
I haven't used that word recall, with the exception of the California.
Recently.
I
So you
don't-
use it recently here.
Item 3,
Please,
Justin
please.
removed that John was asked if he was trying to destroy this town. And that's it.
Wait, I'm sorry. John who?
John
Weingold.
Weingold.
Okay, and who said that?
Don Cobra.
It
John
doesn't
Cobra.
say.
Actually, I
in the
believe
minutes.
It was Susan Cooper that asked him if he was trying to destroy
No,
this town.
it was not.
But I did not put it in there. I just said that John was asked if he was trying to destroy this town.
Why would you say that?
Because he
Without
was
attributing
asked.
it to the person who said it.
Because that's the way things go.
So, will you guys just take it out?
I did. I deleted it.
Fine, thank you.
So Don Coburn said it, but you have a.
It didn't say Don Coburn said it. It just said John was asked to do
It should say Don Coburn.
Okay,
Yeah, so go ahead and add
you're
it.
right. Don Coburn asked John, which we know it's John Weingold because he's the only John with an H. Don Coburn asked John if he was trying to destroy this town.
It's on.
Is that the
I'll
transfer?
go with that. What?
That's on the
That's
transfer?
on the
Yes,
transfer.
I was there. I remember it.
You recall.
I recall, exactly. There we go. Thank you very much.
So that's it on those.
Okay. So
I motion to approve those minutes as we talked about.
I second that motion. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes? No. Okay.
And the final one is 9:15. There's no changes or amendments.
So that was the second homeowner meeting, was that 9:15?
Yes, and John was not at that one.
No, it was the telephone pole here.
The one last week.
Oh, what about the second homeowner? I thought you could do the minutes for
Does
second
that meeting
homeowner.
actually take place on the
I don't know,
15th?
I'm sorry, I might have mistakenly not put that one on
The
there. No, that was 8:19, wasn't it? No.
No, we haven't done that one yet, but the telephone pole minutes.
Yeah,
were-
telephone, we're
Yes.
dismissing this. We're open and closed.
A motion to approve the 9:15 ones.
I second that motion.
Wait,
Yes.
I'm sorry, can I just ask a question, because I actually don't know. Who was here last Wednesday to open and close the meeting?
So Justin and
Yeah.
myself.
Okay, so you guys, you had a
Open.
quorum, and you
We
opened
had
a
a
meeting.
quorum.
Not physically on.
That's
the-
fine,
Yes.
okay, that's all I
We
asked,
opened
perfect, thank you.
we opened the meeting,
And
I rescheduled the poll hearing,
Got it.
I let everybody know that because of the holiday, we weren't having a full meeting. I
Got it.
apologize on behalf of the board, and we made a motion to adjourn, and we adjourned it.
Okay, thank you.
That's what we did. I did that for my kitchen table, by the way. Okay, so.
Were those minutes approved?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, discussion, establishment of committee to investigate what a charter would do for Monterey.
That's not the wording on the warrant.
It's actually the wording on the warrant. It's what got approved. I took it word for word from them.
What the charter could do for Monterey is what we voted on?
I'm just gonna get some more, you guys hash it out.
Well, why don't you advertise for the committee? I don't understand why we've been waiting this long.
Yeah.
Post it like we posted the school committee vacancy. And
So you
take
make-
the wording from the town meeting warrant, what we approved at town meeting.
So your motion is to advertise volunteers for a charter committee or commission? Is it a committee? Committee? Committee to figure out a charter for the town of Monterey. Is that-
So what was it again? Was it to determine, so it's not the right to charter, but it's to determine if there should be a charter, is that what it is?
There was a petition, it was worded one way, and apparently there was a final vote that was worded a different way, so you should just take it right off the.
Somebody changed it on the floor?
You have it on the certified warrant.
It's on the
I'm
certified,
pulling it up right now.
yeah, it's, whatever the wording was, is what you should use.
I'll second your motion. Or was it my motion? I forget. It's getting so late.
Motion to post that the same way that we did the school committee vacancy.
Didn't we get a letter that someone wanted to volunteer for the committee?
Jeff
That was-
Zimmerman, but that was for the bylaw.
That was the
review committee.
bylaw committee.
Yeah. How come that hasn't been done?
Because we're waiting to hear from the town clerk and the AG's office if it was approved or not.
Well, you don't have to wait, you can still have a committee.
And he asked why it wasn't on there. and
No,
I'm
I'm just,
answering
you're right,
why.
I'm just suggesting that you still don't have to wait, that's not actually a reason.
Oh.
You guys can form a committee anytime you want,
So.
We'll put that on the next agenda.
thank you.
Bylaw committee.
And how long do we post it? Post it indefinitely and wait for people to respond? Does it just send out one email blast? Like with the school committee vacancy, I think I got an email.
So it says to see if the town will vote to require the Board of Selectmen to establish a town charter committee made up of citizens to investigate and advise the Board of Selectmen to see if a proposed town charter is appropriate for Monterey.
Okay, so that isn't the wording you put on here.
Well,
It's
we're gonna use that
similar.
word.
Yeah.
Well,
But
you
you
can
just
make
said
it
it was,
work.
you told me just now
Yes.
that this was
Oh
the
my
wording
God,
on the
yes, I'm
warrant.
sorry, you're right. It's
Okay,
8:39 and I'm
It's
a
not
little
on the
tired
warrant.
and I didn't do it word for word, but it's the gist.
Okay, so we will use the language that was voted in the annual town meeting, and so.
How big's the committee?
I think you might want to wait until you start hearing from people first.
Well,
Don't decide.
I understand that, but
I don't know, let's see, Barbara Swan,
Well, you also
John?
should probably come up with their charge, you know, like an official charge, so people know exactly what it is they're gonna be doing, rather than having them come in here and then telling
well, it's,
you what they're gonna do.
no, just that language, exactly that language, you can't tell them anything else.
It's kind of broad, though.
Yeah.
Well,
You can give further directions as you move
Bullet
along,
points.
absolutely.
And
let's get it advertised.
let's just get it posted and see if we get results.
And how long would you like it posted for?
Definitely.
so I don't.
Okay, maybe I should rephrase that. When would you like it on the agenda again to discuss the candidates that may be interested in the position?
Yeah, so you can't post it indefinitely because then you would be voting on it indefinitely plus
Right,
one.
no, you can't post it.
Right. You'd have to.
You have
A
to
month.
have
Why don't we
that.
start
A month.
A month. Sounds good.
And also you can resend out the blast as often as
So
you
why don't
like
we do this? We're gonna post it for a month,
and send it out
and then
once
we
a week.
will review. We will review the number of persons, and then the board will decide whether the number of candidates are good to form the committee, or do they need to keep on posting? Because if you just get two people,
That'll be a problem.
then you're not gonna say, all right, you guys are the committee.
You gotta sweeten the pot and post it again.
Right. Well, I'm saying that you do the review after 30 days, you see who really wants to be on this committee. I'm curious myself, and then we go from there. So that's what we're going to do. Is that acceptable to the board? I didn't mean to say that's what we're going to do.
I agree. That's what we should do.
Listen,
I agree.
okay. So the three of us agree. That's what we're going to do.
So I'm sorry, just a point of order. I noticed that some of your postings for jobs and committee members is copied onto Chris Blair's Google group. Is that correct?
Asking me.
I didn't know. I didn't. What?
I send out notices through the community group.
Oh, okay.
So it's fine if that's your policy to do that, but just make sure you do that with this one too.
Why wouldn't we do?
I don't know. I just didn't know you had a policy to do that.
We don't have a policy. I've just
We didn't make a
instructed to post
policy.
it everywhere,
That's fine.
anywhere.
That's fine.
We just posted in all Monterey venues. When the bulletin board goes back up at the general store, we start posting over there. Well, if we get a bulletin board back on the general store.
Do we make that our legal posting place?
So it was at one point.
At the general store?
At the general, it was.
It's not our legal posting.
Oh,
No,
it
it
was
never
one of
was.
the it was one of the points.
It's not a legal one.
Yes, it is. For the warrants, that's one of the
Well,
spots
for
that
the
gets
warrants, that's true, but not for anything else.
So we'll determine a policy when the general store is completed. I don't even know why I brought that up. Okay, so number 7, I believe the discussion is going to take place at the next meeting.
Well,
Number 8, I believe this is going to be.
no, it's
I
not
don't know
gonna
what number 8 is. Quite frankly, no, because this discussion, a job description has been discussed.
Well,
In
it needs to be
2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. This is the first. Actually, you're right. It's the only year that it hasn't been discussed.
We need to schedule a job performance review of the town administrator sometime in the future. That's number 7. So we need to pick a date for that in October or November. And we also need to talk about the town administrator job description review and revision if necessary. But we can hold off on that until after the meeting involving the issues, the other issues.
Let's see.
But I think the job performance review of TA should be scheduled.
So,
And it's before the end of the year, end of the calendar year.
It's, you know, I've already done my assessment and I've got, you know, things to rock and roll. I know you haven't had an opportunity to do that because we haven't never really discussed it, but if, you know, give you a month, you guys can do your own thing and then we accumulate them and then we have a hearing about the job, an open meeting about the job performance. That's how it's done, I think.
so,
Actually, we'll be getting an HR person.
yeah, we're getting HR, actually, you don't have that on, you don't have that.
That has
on the
nothing to do
agenda?
with job performance.
Well, I'd also ask, what's your policy for job evaluations for everybody? Because if you're gonna just pick and choose one employee, that seems kind of discriminatory or.
Why? You do everyone else. You manage everyone else in town.
Well, I don't know, I get that power taken away from me because I'm told I manage the town clerk, but yet she gets to.
No, that's a different issue.
It is not a different issue.
Okay,
Look,
listen,
the point is,
Listen,
the select board either reviews one person or two.
so there's going to be an active discussion at the next select board meeting that's going to cover a multitude of these issues. I would,
When is the next select board meeting? When is
I
these issues gonna be?
understand that it's, everything's
We
scheduled
meet
for the
weekdays,
29th.
6 p.m.
It's not the 29th. I've already told you, all of you, that I'm not available on the 29th.
The attorney's already scheduled for the 29th.
No, he said to reschedule it. He wants all the board members.
Did he say that?
So if John can't make the weekly meeting, then tonight you guys need to discuss when we
Correct.
will be pushing it off to again, Justin. which
So
will
I
be
don't-
at home,
but I don't-
right?
but I don't-
I just want you to know.
I'm sorry, Justin, I apologize, because when I told you that it's gonna handle next week, I really thought it's gonna be handled next week, but I thought the last thing was that the attorney said that he's coming.
If all 3 members can be here, but if John's saying that he can't make the weekly meeting,
Right. He told me it was gonna actually be discussed tonight, last week, and then
right, he
that all got all
apologized.
messed up, and he made a mistake on his calendar supposedly.
No, he didn't know that Sean was out of the country and wouldn't be given the proper 48 hours notice. And he
So
apologized
can
for
we,
that.
Why can't he be giving notice?
Because he was out of the country and he returned today, so how could he be
You
given
can give
48
notice
hours
to anybody in
notice?
the world. You just send an email.
right, so are we doing it on the 6th of
Or text.
October, is that
Well,
what
he
it is?
didn't have service there.
How
so-
about the 4th, and then we meet on the 6th? We have just to discuss the executive session on the 4th, and then our regular meeting on the 6th. Because I'm not gonna get bogged down on the 6th with 20 items before the important stuff again.
Well, I think he's suggesting is have our weekly meeting, do our administrative roles, and have a separate meeting for executive session.
Correct. That's exactly what I'm recommending.
When we interviewed the town councils, we had a separate meeting from our regular meeting. for the month.
Isn't this item 16?
So you wanna check on the council's availability on the?
Yes, could you let me know what time
On the
you're thinking?
4th?
6?
The 4th is a Monday, the 6th
Right.
is a Wednesday.
I understand.
So,
He said 6 p.m.
okay. I think in some ways that would be conducive to good business. Like how we did the town council separate, because like tonight, we had all kinds of meetings, which was good, and they were shorter, but
Okay, so yes.
4th at 6 o'clock.
4th and 6th, there you go, 4th and 6 o'clock. Gary's bringing cookies.
No, can I just confirm? So
Yes, we have to confirm with.
Wait,
confirm with
because I will confirm with him, but we should also get the letters signed, because are you gonna meet on the 29th, the 2 of you? To still do the other administrative stuff?
I would be happy to meet administratively next week. If it's necessary. Like I said, I like the idea of weekly meetings. And 2 is a quorum, but if it doesn't make sense this time, It doesn't make sense. And we'll be meeting twice the next week.
Yeah, push it off, I would push it up to the
Potentially.
first week in October, first, whatever.
November.
Okay, so then what I would
October.
suggest,
October.
so what I would suggest, since you're not gonna be meeting until that October 4th, if he's available, is that I will amend the letters that need to go out to the parties involved to state that it's going to be about the executive session,
Right.
so that everybody knows that October 4th will be an executive session.
We'll just put October 4th in handwriting and we'll initial it and off they go.
I think that's kind of unprofessional.
Well, we don't know
I
if,
can
we
quickly
don't,
change
we don't know
But
if the
you can
attorney's
sign
available.
it. Like, why don't you get ahead of it and have the letter signed, and then if you can't do it, well.
Can you print it out right now?
Yes, I will
Yeah.
put it out right now.
So, and then if the attorney, okay, so just for everybody's education, so if the attorney says, I can't make it, we're just gonna rip up those letters?
Right.
Is that what we're gonna do?
Yes.
No, you send them, then he says no, then you rip them up.
Or you just add a little one, say, wait a minute, you read this wrong.
Steve, may I ask a question? I guess I'm confused.
Me too.
So it obviously it's involving two employees. Are you going to be having the executive session with both employees together, or executive sessions separately? I mean, they're separate people, separate issues. Why would they be held together?
So basically, it's my understanding is how the complaint is based. So if the complaint is two people is against two people, they have the right to be there together. If just one complaint against one person and one complaint against another person, then they would be separate.
Let's check with
They shouldn't be together legally. I mean, that's like suicide for the town. They should be separate.
I think suicide is a little strong, but I understand. It's an interesting question.
Justin,
as a select board, let's check with the attorney on how to proceed to do everything properly.
So didn't he get the complaints already?
Yeah, apparently John sent them to him.
Okay, so he got the
He said that he could have them together.
I haven't seen it in writing from the lawyer. That's all. That's all.
The past attorney or the current attorney?
As a select board,
The current
board, we should be doing these communications with the lawyer. We don't want to put anyone in a potential conflict of interest situation. It's not appropriate.
also,
We need to take a little bit of.
my understanding is you have to give 48 hours notice, is that correct?
That's what the purpose of
In excess of 48 hours is the minimum.
So if you have to schedule a meeting for the 4th of October, you have to send out 48 hours notice, obviously.
That's what they're signing right now.
on Thursday.
Justin, for this information from the lawyer, who's going to be requesting it? The Board of Selectmen or the town administrator?
I just went over it.
I'm sorry, it's hard to hear a little bit.
The select board needs to conduct the select board's investigation, that's all.
Okay, because you don't want any conflict of interests.
I said that.
Thank you, Justin.
So are there items on the agenda that we can just, you guys are here for specific item so that we could see if we could maybe, Terry, so this is your 8:15 at 9.
Well, I want to talk about number 18, see Terry Walker year out end balance sheet. I want to know what that's about.
Well, are you guys really gonna skip like half your agenda right now?
Well, John,
No, we're not supposed
as
to.
much as I would like to,
This is what
watch
every
the
meeting.
watch the sunrise with
You
you.
are the board, that's all I'm asking, is the board gonna skip all of the other agenda items? I'm just asking.
So I'll make a
Marathon session.
How about we get the Board of Selectmen some coffee?
I don't like drinking out of this machine. I'm gonna get some more water.
Well, why don't you, for the next meeting, take all what's not discussed tonight and move that up to the top, and any new things should go to the bottom so that you can cycle through everything. Otherwise, whatever some people don't want to discuss will always stay on the bottom.
Geez, that makes so much sense. Who would have suggested that?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I'm apparently on 9, so I'm here. You asked me to be here. I'm on the agenda. I would like to do item 9 to start.
9. Didn't we just have this? I recall didn't we just have this discussion?
No,
No,
nobody discussed any allegations by the TA against me.
this is supposed to be discussed in the executive session.
Why is it here? Why?
I'm just saying what I was told.
Who told you that?
I believe Justin said it was gonna be an executive session, all the other complaints that you listed.
But this isn't a complaint. I didn't make the complaint. You made the complaint.
Discussed in executive session.
I asked them to be put on the agenda, and I was told, if memory serves, that they should be in executive session.
Should be.
The allegations were made in public by the TA.
Okay.
I have the right to take it out of executive session or to ask for it to be in executive session. I'm the one who the allegations have been made against. So it's on the agenda. It's a public thing. It should be discussed now.
Would you like to have complaints against you discussed in executive session?
You haven't called an executive session. I can't refuse to put it in, have it in executive session if you haven't called.
We have right. We have to do.
Yeah. So I can't answer that question unless you decide that it needs to be an executive session.
He's asking your preference. What would you prefer?
The allegations were made public. I'm going to prefer that it be done in public. We have to make a distinction between who makes the allegations and the complaints and who receives them. Okay, if I reply to a complaint against me, I'm not the one making the complaint.
So, all right, so let's, is there anything else that we can, is that it? Is that
No, 9 is the next one. Can we just stick with this one?
So tell us, what do you want us to do? What would you like to discuss?
All right, I think you already have all of the emails regarding this allegation that was made against me by the TA. You already have everything. You have the emails I sent you, you have the tape, you have my refutation of the allegations that are wrong about what I said on the tape. You have everything you need to make a judgment. And you are the TA's manager. It's your job, not mine.
Yeah, but to discuss, I understand the allegations made against you, but to discuss an employee's character or reputation, we have to enter.
It's not a character reputation. I'm the one who had my character question.
So this should be discussed.
Not her.
This should be discussed in executive session.
You know, executive sessions aren't mandatory.
They're not mandatory. They should not be discussed. You
This
have
should be
no.
discussed in
Right.
executive session.
All right, go ahead. Put it in executive session.
So number 9 is going.
But actually, so wait a minute, so if you're discussing, so then we have to notice.
The notice goes to me. Only when the allegations were made. So you have to vote to go in executive session. You have to give me 48 hours notice, and I can refuse. That's the law.
Add that on to
I haven't fully.
Saying.
I don't fully. Okay, so allegations were made against John Silver, who's not a town employee.
There are very specific reasons why you go into executive session. There's about 10 of them.
But in you trying to refute those allegations, are
I
you
already
making?
did. I already sent the information to you,
so
but you haven't made
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But the person making the complaint needs to substantiate their complaint with their documentation. And John has a right to do this in public if he wants.
So my recommendation is that we have this discussion, when we touch.
Why would you push it off? Why would you do that?
Because my suggestion is to do what we have town council.
Because there's so many complaints piling up that.
You hire that session in itself should be done, in executive session. This is really tricky stuff. I understand, John, I understand.
I understand that you need to get it right, but
Right,
I
you need to get it
assure
right.
you that I am the one who the complaint has been made
Got it.
against. I'm the defendant.
Got it.
I have given you all of the
So
information
there's going to
you
be
need.
there's going to be a thing with council. on the 4th of October, and this will be part and parcel of it. Or is a discussion of how this is done. It's got to be done. It's got to be done in the right fashion.
So I'm just going to repeat myself. You have everything you need to make a decision.
Okay.
If you guys, as a board, decide that you would prefer to have an executive session, you can schedule one. Then it is my decision about whether or not I accept that.
Well, would be
Fair enough, right?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay, so when are you going to schedule?
So
put it on for the 4th.
So you're going to have 2 executive sessions on the 4th.
No, it's one executive session involving all the issues.
You can't do it that way.
Can't do executive sessions.
Okay.
The complaint, the allegations against me are separate. You can't have the same executive session.
How about October 6th?
I didn't say you couldn't do 2 on the 4th.
You just said that.
No, I said you can do 2
They have
on
to
the
be
4th,
separate.
but they have to be separate.
Okay, so I'm doing it on the 4th.
So you have to check with so you have to sign it. So there's another set of letters. You have to check with council if they're going to be available on the 4th for the executive session B.
You already know that you already asked them that.
Maybe his complaint should be forwarded to council and asked what's the best way and whose rights are.
Can't hear what she's saying.
That's an interesting idea.
I said that it's your job.
Would you be willing to forward?
It's your job.
Would you allow it? Well, you know what though, because we don't want to do it. At least personally, I can only talk for myself. I don't want to do it the wrong way. So I would love to, since we have counsel and they even have a legal, a labor person. So if do we have permission to forward your complaint onto counsel?
You don't need my permission. You already have everything.
I mean, I'm asking you just to say yes.
If it makes you feel better, I would prefer that you do it correctly. That's been my point the whole time.
So I'm going to state out in the public here that we will forward. Is that okay with the board?
Okay, but I would like to see the select board do it because the allegations came from the TA.
Isn't it?
You need to go to your council as a board and ask the question.
Yes.
Yes.
The TA should not be involved. It's a conflict of interest.
All right.
Nobody was arguing that, Nancy.
That's the whole point of this discussion. We want to get John's complaint in front of town council.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
Steve, you're mumbling. Please talk so we can hear.
Forwarding John's complaint to town council. Or not John's complaint, the complaint made against John.
Thank you.
Okay.
I did not make a complaint.
I did not make a complaint.
Okay. My only complaint is that for the bewitching hour. Is there anything else that we need to handle? Terry?
Number 18, C, Terry Walker, year-end balance sheet. I want to know what that's about. Who put it on there?
Justin put it on there.
What is it about?
18?
I think it's the issue that we had this discussion with Eric about, no?
Which letter are we talking about?
Here, Justin, is this.
Under 18.
It's her complaint, and then you have to deal with my complaint, which is.
Okay, can we just do 18A first? Can we do it in order?
Sure. Can we finish the other stuff on the agenda? So
Well, I agree with you, but they don't, Steve keeps trying to
Police
skip it.
investigation policies and procedures. What's that one about?
No, we're gonna table that one.
Right, listen, why don't you guys go down the list and take up each of the following ones? Do it real quick.
Number 10, I think we should table. That's my motion.
Second.
Yes, all in favor? Aye.
Yes.
Okay, that's tabled.
So I'm sorry, when you say table, it never comes back up.
That's
So
not
I
true.
would-
It'll be on the next agenda.
Thank you, that should be in the motion.
But are you going to put the agenda items, new stuff at the bottom and keep these at the top? So at 6 o'clock next week, we can discuss this stuff instead of keep tabling it?
I understand.
I made that motion, I couldn't get a second.
Right.
All right, I'm sorry, but I would just like to do this right. You're not tabling it, you're continuing it to the next meeting.
Correct.
So
The
use
motion
the
is
right
to
language.
continue.
Well, not the next session, because the next session is October 4th.
The next
It's
public
the-
section,
yes, public session.
open meeting.
Well, listen.
Number 10, my motion is to continue it to the next open public meeting?
Number 11 is definitely is an issue for October 4th. So I make a motion to
Move it to the next.
move it to this you could move to. You can bring it up on
October
October
4th.
4th.
Number 12, well, how did two non-employees of the town find out about HR issues in town hall? How did 2 people or 3 people have any knowledge of those complaints?
So
that's the topic. How did that happen?
who are you asking?
Did you?
Question?
Yeah, I'm asking you the question. Did you disclose it to the?
I don't know how.
Oh, okay. So you didn't disclose it to the 2 town employees, two private citizens.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Not a clue.
I'm talking about the HR issues and the complaints filed here at town hall. How did 2 private citizens in Monterey find out about those HR that are private?
Well, I can tell you.
Yeah.
I had the chair of the finance committee, Michelle Miller, tell me she was accosted by Terry when she came in here to elaborate everything to her.
All right, listen.
I'm talking about Aldon Colburn.
She just asked how it got out to the public.
That's not on swell.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
I make a motion to adjourn.
No.
Wait a second.
This is related to October 4th meeting. These are all right.
No, it's not October 4th.
No,
I make
it's
a
not.
motion to adjourn.
I would like to try and interpret what this means. And if I'm wrong, John, if I'm wrong, let me know.
Do I have a second on my motion?
I have something to get signed for the town clerk's office. And it needs to be signed tonight.
Okay.
And that's 3 times Melissa has said rude things about me, and that's the last time you're gonna do this.
All right. Put it down. What is?
There's no need of her to act like that.
What's the item that you
The question was asked, Terry. I let him know. That's
I'm
what
talking
Michelle
about the
told me.
complaint.
That's not even true.
Should I call her? Because she actually told me that she came in.
Wait, we gotta focus on business.
That's a lie, like all the other lies.
Right, like all of yours as well.
Melissa, you should be better. You should be talking to your employees like that. You should resign. You're an embarrassment.
Yes, thank you, Rebecca, as are you.
I have a question.
Melissa, that statement is hearsay. It wasn't sent directly to you.
But everything that John Weingold brings up is hearsay, and everything that you bring up is hearsay, so I think
Oh, no, it's not, girl. I have
Melissa, the whole town knows what you did.
We're gonna silence the public. Silence them.
they can
Only,
unmute themselves.
just say only the board is allowed to talk without any permission from you, Steve. Only the board.
This is to keep a single precinct for voting.
Right.
And it's the town has less than 6,200 inhabitants. So if we had more than one precinct, it would be very expensive. We'd have to set up 3 or 4 polling stations. 1 is plenty.
Right.
So we check this off, and then the selectmen sign it and date it. If you have any questions about it,
So I move that we adopt this, that we adopt and sign the single precinct authorization form as presented to us from town clerk.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
so you
We sign it on this, is it this date?
it's 2 different things. Yes, today's date.
Today is the 22nd. 9/22/21.
Make sure your allegations are contained in the
Oh,
minutes.
don't you worry, they will be.
I hope so.
And this one is just me being here. I mean, I'm attesting to
Real
signing
professional.
Okay,
Right, just like you,
I
John.
move, all right, I move that,
that I'm present.
oh,
when you
okay,
sign.
okay, okay, so we don't, I don't know to move this, we're just signing this in the presence of the town clerk.
Yeah.
Do I have to write our name?
Nope, sign.
Just sign it. John. You want to continue this as phone dance?
And then I'm gonna sign it as well.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion that the other items that are not gonna be discussed apparently be put at the top of the agenda of next public meeting, not at the bottom, but they always have been. Ridiculous.
So, again, generally, we put the town's business first, and then we put in all the other items.
The select board
I-
items
I-
are
I-
the town's business.
Second.
Okay, so all in favor of John's motion?
What?
What?
Yes.
I didn't know if you want to recognize Silver.
What, no, it's not,
You have a
board
motion, you
issue.
discuss it.
It's board issue.
You wanna discuss it?
Yeah.
Hand up. Discussion. John, listen, come on. I mean, I vote, okay, so you vote yes, I vote no, so that's it. Now I make a motion to adjourn.
Did they actually say yes, yes, or no? I didn't hear you.
No.
Yes.
You said yes, did you say yes, Justin? Because I didn't hear you.
Yes.
And I vote no.
Well, I mean, I didn't say yes, but now I'm saying yes.
Okay,
The
thank
first
you.
time Steve said it.
Gotcha, sorry, I apologize.
He read my mind.
I read his mind. So, that being done, I make a motion to adjourn.
And if I do public comment?
No. What's that? We have plenty of public comment, there's a reason why there's no requirement, for it, and I make a motion to adjourn, it's now 9:10. And I
Second.
I vote yes.
Yes.
No.
Vote no. Okay, we're adjourned.
Please make sure you sign the warrant before you go.
Yes, we've got 2 warrants here. We must have 1 additional signature, otherwise no one gets paid.